take a crank and just drop in, just like that.
Awesome.
Good to see you again, man. Officially, now we're recording. Great to see you again.
Yeah, dude, it's been way too long. Apologies on my side for, just been a crazy spring here with so much going on, and I'm just so stoked, man, to link up with you finally. Like it's been way too long, dude. I missed you.
It's been a minute. Yeah. What I love though about our relationship is that we don't talk that often, and then we catch up like once a month, like let's do a podcast. We don't really talk too much in between, right? Because it's like, I don't know, just you're busy, I'm busy. It is what it is.
But we get some text messages going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
Couple videos, couple voice messages. So yeah, true. We're not like calling each other every day to make sure that that everything's good. But I think we communicate a fair bit.
But it's good. Yeah, I think so. I think we do as well, actually. It's good because also it's good to actually catch up and speak about what you've been doing for, the last month or 2 months or however long it's been. And also you're pretty good at staying away from your phone, which is really good. So I know like not to bother you. Like there's no point just hammering you with messages all the time and asking you loads of questions, because for the most part, you're going to be disconnected doing fun stuff, which is what you should be doing anyway.
Totally. So, and I kind of liked it. Like our last podcast, I thought came out really good, and we just saved it for the podcast, and it was like really, I really liked our last one, man. I thought that one really went well. I was really stoked when I was like listening back to it and stuff. I was like, man, like good job, us.
Fist bump. Good shit. Nah, it's cool, man. It's good. It's a good way of doing things. Like I say, we disconnect for a little bit. You do your thing, I do my thing, then we just catch up and see what's going on. It works pretty good. Pretty good.
So dude,
you're
no, so how you been, man? Speaking about your thing, like what's been going on, what's been keeping you busy?
Man, good question. I'm sorry, a little bit stumbling at the moment. Your video keeps going on and off, but it will be fine at the end. Don't worry. But yeah, your video keeps going on and off. So I keep seeing you, and then I'm not seeing you, and it's like it's a weird social cue. So I'm like waiting for you to talk, but then the video goes off. So apologies for that if people are listening too, but we'll figure it out. Good question though, man. What's been keeping me busy? I mean, it's coming into British summer here. So business is pretty busy. I think we've been lucky that I work in mountain biking and action sports anyway. So for the most part, what I do has been pretty busy throughout this whole pandemic and stuff like that. But coming into summer, things ramp up even more for me. So I'm pretty busy at the moment with SAXX. We do like a 6-month selling season. So I'm currently in one of those at the moment. So sort of doing a lot of prospecting to new accounts, visiting certain stores, and just showing people the new range of SAXX products. And then I also work for a sunglasses brand too with Red Bull Spect. So that's pretty busy. Again, we've got the sun at the moment, which is pretty rare for the UK. We don't get sun for too long, so we've got sun at the moment. So I've been working pretty hard on that. And then my actual, my distribution business, Hook It, is good as well. Like I say, we've been powering through this whole global pandemic anyway. But that's what's been keeping me busy, like from a business standpoint. I've been riding a bunch, which has been awesome. I finally just got my hands on a new dirt jump bike because, as you may know, and no doubt loads of people listening will know, there is a global shortage of bikes, so it's really hard to get anything. So I'm hyped to have finally got a new dirt jump bike. And I've not ridden dirt jumps for a long time, dude, so I'm excited to get back in the mix. So that's what's been keeping me busy from a sort of personal and a riding aspect. And then a few other little things, I guess, which we're going to get into too. I've been doing quite a lot of reading recently. Read a few really good books recently. So that's been happening. So what about you though? I feel like you have the way more exciting life than me, dude.
Dude,
I don't worry about what I'm doing.
That's all exciting stuff, and I can relate for sure. Like having gotten back on your hardtail, riding hardtails is insane. Like I've been taking a huge break off my hardtail since November.
Okay.
I actually didn't really ride my hardtail.
Really?
November until maybe like a week ago, I picked it back up, and man, I felt just like a little kid. Like I felt like I was 15 years old when I just started riding again.
Really?
It was just this like huge connection to just like how fun it is, you know? Because like you get like the dirt jumper just brings a whole bunch of like a whole new level of fun, and it's crazy because I've been riding them for so many years, and my control and my bike control is like on such another level on the hardtail. So when I get on it, I really feel like it's something you've mastered, but you've forgotten about how much you love it. And then you get on it, and there's like a whole new world. You know, you're seeing the world through a whole new lens. So it's been really exciting to get back on the hardtail, and I'm stoked that you're on a hardtail because hardtails are awesome, man. And been riding a lot of trail bikes, and it's crazy because like I'm finding now that it's bringing a new level of control on my hardtail, which is kind of exciting.
Is it really?
Yeah, because you ride trails.
That's cool. Yeah,
you're getting loose, and then all of a sudden, you start doing that on your hardtail too, and you like start riding a little more loose. You start like kind of like doing a little bit more tire drifts, or like even just feel way more solid. So it's been pretty. It's been pretty exciting, man, to get on the hardtail, and I'm looking forward to just like getting on it even more, man. But dude, I've had a crazy couple months.
That's cool.
Like super crazy.
Yeah. Just quickly, I haven't actually ridden. I haven't ridden a hardtail for, dude, like probably 8 years. I think. And I used to be like super into dirt jumping and a little bit of street and park and stuff. But yeah, I've not owned one for about probably over 8 years, maybe even close to 10 years. And I don't know, I think what it is recently I've been speaking to Ollie obviously a lot more, dealing and speaking a lot more to Odub, and just his passion for riding in general is like, it's made its way over the airwaves into me as well. And I've just been stoked just to get back on a dirt jump bike. You know, he talks about dirt jumping a lot. Obviously he posts a lot of content about it and stuff. And it just really got me thinking, like, yeah, I need to get back into this. And then it's been so hard to find a bike for the last 18 months because everything just sold out instantly. So I've genuinely been trying to buy one for at least a year. And then thankfully the guys at Marin came through. They had some bikes in stock all of a sudden, and they managed to get one to me. So, but yeah, I feel you with that actually. I blew up the tires and built the bike the other day. I went for a little bit of a cruise just round where I live. And I instantly felt what you just said. I was like, oh, this feels like when I was a kid again. Like I was just like floating around, riding street, jumping curbs, doing manuals, all stuff you can do on a trail bike, but it is nowhere near as fun as when you're on a hardtail. So yeah, I feel you. I've only ridden it for about 10 minutes at most, like most 10 minutes. But straight away, I was like, fuck. Even just taking it through the house and just being like, oh, it feels like I was going dirt jumping again when I was like 20. It's so fun. Yeah. So I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to go ride some pump tracks first to sort of feel it out a little bit. I don't want to just go straight into riding dirt jumps because I think that could end pretty badly. So I'm just going to hit some pump tracks, just some smaller stuff, and then, yeah, get back into some dirt jumping.
It is dangerous for sure. Taking it slow is definitely a good idea. I find it so funny now that we're talking about this, but like, so I'm 30 years old now, and I spent the first like from 15 to like 24, pretty much just in the streets and like riding around and doing street spots and filming street spots, and now I'm like 30, and whenever I kind of dip back into that life, I just laugh so hard because people come out to kick me out of a spot or something. And they look at me and they're like, aren't you a little too old to be doing this? Like we just kicked off some like 15-year-olds, and then the security guard comes out as like full grown like adult man.
You're probably older than him.
Yeah. Like, really, dude? You're gonna jump off the roof? Like shouldn't you be like, taking care of
Don't
your
have
kids.
work tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's been exciting.
I feel you about it. Definitely, that's exactly how I feel at the moment. That is exactly where I'm at with it. I just can't wait. So,
But I like it too, because I remember being like,
out of interest, because
I said
sorry, after you.
I
There's a
said I
slight
like
delay
it
sometimes.
because I remember being like a young kid at the skate park and seeing the old guy show up and just like rip the skate park like super hard, and it's pretty cool now being that guy. Because you know that the kids are
no
seeing
doubt,
you
I
in the
bet.
same view, so it's pretty sick.
Yeah. Whereabouts in Canada did you grow up?
I grew up in Ontario and Toronto. Actually,
Okay.
pretty
So
close
I
to
guess
Brett Reeder and Braden Barrett-Hay and even Mike Gray, who's also turned into a professional BMX rider right around Joyride area. And it was the perfect place, man, to grow up, and lots of good skate parks, lots of good riding, lots of good riders to ride with. It was a really good, healthy community.
Yeah. So I'm just curious as well. Growing up, what ratio did you ride street and then mountain bike?
Oh, dude, I didn't touch a mountain bike until about 4 years ago, I think. Like honestly, I'll be
No
really
way. You
honest.
mean
Yeah.
hardtail mountain bike though? You did, right?
Oh yeah,
Not
that's
BMX. You
all
never
I
did the
did.
BMX
That's
thing.
all I did. Hardtails. I just rode hardtails. That's it. Rode a couple slope bikes, and then maybe about 4 years ago, I started getting on to actual trail bikes and downhill bikes.
Wow.
And
What
dude,
took you so long?
It's been crazy. It's been
What was it?
crazy because just being able, like, man, you can't fake being good on a trail bike. It takes years of experience, learning how to corner properly, learning how to like just ride loam and like not like grab the brakes and skid it up and like look like a Jerry, but like actually riding with like control. Like you watch a guy like Thomas Vanderham, and like he's like absolutely mind blowing to watch ride. And like that's because he's been doing it for 20 years, and he's just like he's just like an artist. So I always thought riding hardtails, I was like, yeah, that stuff's so easy. You could just get on it and whatever. You just do a skid in the corner and it's all good. But getting the bike and riding the bikes, I quickly learned that wasn't the case. Like this is a whole nother genre of riding that takes a lot of effort and a lot of practice to master. So the last 4 years has really just been like an awakening to how actually awesome mountain biking is and how much work that I needed to put in this new spectrum that I love so much, because I do like, I love trail riding. It's one of my favorite things to do because almost anybody could do it, and you can do it with so many different friends, compared to like dirt jumping where some friends
dirt jumping is kind of limiting, isn't it, really?
Yeah, they're not going to be riding with you because the jumps are too gnarly. But trail bike, you can basically get anybody, and depending on the trail, you can have an amazing time. There's certainly some trails that you don't want people riding because they're really, really gnarly, and it's been exciting actually, like kind of getting into that stuff and just appreciating how gnarly that is, because some trails out here, especially in BC, are just completely fucked. That's the only way to put it. And they take years.
Well, obviously, that's one thing I was going to mention. Was I've seen through your Instagram in the last couple of months, you really hit the trail bike hard. Probably last month, I think that's when I was seeing it. You were really hitting the trail bike hard. You were sending some big stuff, some scary stuff, a lot of North Shore sort of stuff. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that. So that's crazy to think that that's still relatively new to you. That is insane to like actually know that about you.
Yeah, it's insane. So secret on the down low, I've been putting in a lot of work on the trail bike over the last 4 years. And then this spring I had a project coming up for Industry 9 and Maxis, and I was going to do it on the site. which is a trail bike platform for Norco. And so I needed to put in the work. And I realized that where I was at was not where I needed to be. So I basically took like a month. I squeezed in a year's worth of riding in 1 month. And I traveled kind of locally around Vancouver where there wasn't any snow. And I basically rode my bike for 8 hours a day at least. And I just went from one friend to another and just rode with them every single day until they got like super tired, and then went to the next friend and like rode him out, and then went to the next friend. And then I'll give a huge shout out to my friend Jono, who lives he lives in in Vancouver, and I couldn't tire him out. He's like a full on bicycle addict who rides like 8 hours a day every single day. And I couldn't tire him out. He actually tired me out. I had to leave his house and take a break. But yeah,
I love the thought of you just driving around burning friends out. I love that.
because I realized that I had so much work to do on the bike, because you just can't fake this stuff.
Yeah.
You need to really put the time in. So I was like, basically just getting as much time as I could on the bike, and then following riders that were better than me. I got the opportunity to ride with Thomas Vanderham, who like completely blew my mind. It was like looking into the Matrix following this guy. And I only got to follow him for like 1 or 2 corners, but those 1 or 2 corners literally changed my life and changed my whole perspective on like how someone does take a corner, or how someone can avoid the jank or use a piece of jank to like air onto a spot of loam that you didn't even think was existing. Just this whole new universe.
Yeah.
And following, with the riders and stuff, it was and I'm rambling now, but like I just get so excited about this stuff because I think trail bikes are just such an exciting platform. And there's so much terrain, and there's so much different terrain, and there's something about the Vancouver's North Shore that is really special. Like, it's unlike any other terrain I've ever ridden. The routes are really slick, the rocks are really slick. If you go off the trail, it's been logged so many times that the like everything off the trail, the forest floor, is really jagged and rough, and if you do crash, you're probably going to get speared by some dead log that is just waiting for you, or some sharp rock, so it's like it's really gnarly, and it's cool being able to go there and have the access, because I can ride there for 2 weeks, but if I ride every day, I'm really learning maybe I'm riding for 2 weeks, but I'm probably gaining like 2 months of experience, if that makes any sense. Which puts my whole
totally.
trail bike progression on fire.
Yeah. That's crazy. So what are the biggest differences though that you've noticed? What's the biggest differences you've noticed? Like, what do you notice on a bike when you're clicking and when you're not? Do you know what I mean? What are the biggest things that you notice?
Well, it's just like, I think for the trail bike, it's just such a whole different thing. Like, being able to corner, stay in control, and like you the whole thing is like, you don't want to look out of control when you're being filmed. You want to be fast, and you want to look in control. And I think it takes a lot of talent to go fast and look in control, and it's just been really hard to build the talent, like, because you just can't fake it,
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's crazy that, like you say, you can't fake it. Like, people will see straight through that shit straight away. They'll be like, he was dabbing the brake trying to do a cutty. We ain't having it. It's not happening.
So that was that was really exciting for me. And then we went down into Oliver, British Columbia, where there's a Canadian moto FMX legend. Kyle DeMello. We went to his property and we built out a trail and did a really sick project that I'm really excited to come out. And then kind of been decompressing ever since that happened, because those projects can be so much work. And been doing a little bit of Freeride. And that's kind of been a whole new experience. And I'm kind of like right now literally decompressing from this really gnarly 3-day Freeride trip that I just did, like out in the backcountry.
Really?
And that was a whole another humbling experience in itself, because I went out there solo for a couple days to build some stuff, and it was like, it was insane. Like just going out 4x4ing down this gnarly road for like 45 minutes. I was out there for like, I said three days. I was out there for 2 nights solo. I saw maybe one other person. Wow. Like one redneck dude on a side-by-side and his dog. So like fully isolated.
Okay.
Animals everywhere, like cougar tracks everywhere, like hearing the wolves howling at night. Like they sound like they were like 5 minutes away from your tent. Just terrifying, like literally terrifying. Like walking around these like slopes, the wind. Sometimes like some of the dirt could be like really hard and you can actually make like avalanches. So like almost getting caught in dirt avalanches that like slide off cliffs, and like I couldn't believe it, man. And I was coming across like super old school mountain bike relics from legends like 15 years ago, like Freeride stuff. And I couldn't believe like how isolated it was, how gnarly the conditions were. The dirt's really terrible to work with. It's hot. It's so hot because you're like in a desert. And I was just thinking to myself, like, holy cow, Freeride is insane. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like the whole time, like coming back to my tent, like scared to camp at night because I don't want to get eaten by wolves. Scared to walk around. I don't want to get bit by a snake. If I get bit by a snake, like I might die out there, dude. Like crazy.
Yeah, holy, you're on your own.
Yeah, dude. So that's been a whole nother crazy experience, because I've been thinking about kind of getting into Freeride and backcountry, like watching where the trails ends. And that's really exciting to me, thinking about, oh man, maybe I could bring my skate park background onto the trail bike and the Freeride bike and start doing some moves. And then kind of like exploring that idea and going out into the backcountry really made me realize, like, wow, this is just like the trail bike. It's a whole new realm. This is going to take years of really hard work to get into, to do safely, because this stuff is really gnarly. It's not like, oh yeah, you landed a 360 once on your trail bike. You're not going to go do it like in the middle of nowhere where there's like snakes and rocks and like everything literally trying to kill you, and you're a couple hours away from the hospital. Like you're not going to do that out there, because if you crash and
that's
break
crazy
something,
to think though. Like you said, it's the riding is gnarly, but then the actual experience of creating the thing is as gnarly as the riding. It's being isolated on your own. It's snakes, it's bears, it's cougars, it's the travel, it's all that crazy stuff. Doesn't really comprehend when you watch someone just do a 360 or a flip somewhere in the middle of nowhere. You don't even really think about that. I know there's a few really good films though that capture it, right? Like North of Nightfall is really cool for that. Like that shows a little bit more of the escapism and stuff like that. Did you mean like did you intend to go on your own, or did you just do it?
Well, here's
someone
the
else
thing.
Bailed or what?
No. Like here's the thing. Like I asked all my friends, and they were busy. So, and then I had this window in my schedule, and I really want to get into Freeride. So I was like, okay, well, let's do some exposure therapy. Let's just get out there and see what this is about, and just try it, like stress-free. So I went out 2 nights and built some stuff. And often those guys in those movies will go out for 2 weeks and build. So I just went out 2 nights, built a couple lines, and then I had 2 of my really good friends meet me up, filmers, Brody and Cad. Cad's a drone pilot. And they came out, and when they came out, it was like such a sigh of relief, like not being alone out there. I was
Really?
like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Like, this is amazing. Like I just felt so much safer in that sense. And then just like walking around with them, like just walking around. You're literally walking around a mountainside, which takes a lot of energy in itself. And then, getting like just learning that like how valuable your energy is and all the energy it takes to even get out to where you want to film. And then, waiting for the light.
And the resources too, because you're self-sufficient, so you've taken all your food in there too, and everything's in there with you. A lot of planning.
Yeah. It's complete savagery. And then the whole time I'm like going through this process, like feeling it out, and I'm just thinking like, whoa, I'm so unprepared. Wow, Freeride is so gnarly. I can't believe what these guys are going through. Like, like you said, like where the trail ends, north of Nightfall, all the stuff that we see, is just insane. All the stuff that we don't see. There's just so much behind it. And it was really cool to go out there and kind of experience it. And I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it, because it's tough, because you want to film like high quality riding, progressive riding, but you can't take risks out there, So that means that like you have to get on such a level as a rider that your risk-free riding is progressive enough for a feature film, if that makes any sense. And I am like not even close.
Yeah,
like I'm not even close. Like,
is it?
So I got a lot.
It makes sense. It makes sense in the way of how you're saying it, that's what you have to do, but it doesn't make sense hearing it from a rider like yourself. If that makes sense, does that make sense?
Totally. So it was a crazy, gnarly awakening experience, and I just have so much more respect for all the Freeride legends that have been before me and everything that's been done out in the backcountry. It's just like a whole new perspective for me, and I just have so much respect for everything Freeride that's ever been done, because it's gnarly.
That's cool. Such a good experience, and such a great take on it as well, man. Like looking at it that way. And is it a pretty sort of iconic spot that you went to? You said there was already like bits out there from past projects and stuff like that. Is that what it is?
It's you know what? It's a funny zone. It's not really that iconic because it's so isolated and far back, but you can see remnants of people who were there like maybe like 10, 15 years ago. I think that around 10 or 15 years ago, people were kind of exploring the world and looking for the best freeride zones. And I think they went there and they were just like, yeah, the dirt shit. This is kind of like not really a good zone. And then left. And then I'm here like 15 years later, out there looking at all this stuff.
Yeah, they were right.
And being like, yeah, they were right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's crazy. Good story though. Really like that. I love it. So when is this stuff coming out? When can people see it?
Well, I think that the trail bike video should be out in the next 2 months for sure, and I'm really excited for people to see that just because I put so much work in, and I'm really excited. Yeah. It was a real growth experience for me. Like I never filmed anything really like this on a trail bike before, and I never even built stuff like that for I never built really trail, so that was exciting, and it was really really pushed me to the limits. Like my builds were really creative and progressive, and I was like all my builds pushed my building to the limits, and then it like kind of pushed my riding to the limits. So it was like a really growth. It was a lot of growth for me, man. So that was exciting, but really difficult. And then this Freeride stuff, like I don't know when this will come out. Like like I literally went out there just to experiment. I built a bunch of stuff. We didn't even end up shooting the stuff that I built because it was too gnarly. So like I'm just gonna like go back and completely refocus and try and get the skills up to a level where I feel comfortable like actually doing some moves in the middle of nowhere. Because right now, like I don't feel like breaking my legs, you know, a couple hours away from civilization on the side of some hill.
It sounds
you know,
hellish. It doesn't sound fun. It does not sound fun at all. It's cool to hear though, man, how you take such an approach to all this. Again, it's stuff that people don't necessarily see or hear, is how you put all that time in on the trail bike to create this edit. And people probably listening wouldn't realize that you've only spent, what did you say, 4 years on a trail bike?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, you can't fake
and then
but
to be doing this on the freeride stuff. Yeah.
But 4 years on the trail bike. But I mean, last month I rode a year's worth of riding.
Yeah. Just burning friends out around Canada.
Dude,
so
I
sick.
burned through a set of tires,
that.
man, in like 2 weeks. Like that's
Did
how
you
much
really?
I was riding. Like full, like had to swap the tires, like everything, man. Like a lot of riding, dude.
So sick. It must be cool riding for a bike brand like that too, Norco, because you've got that option, right, to do some downhill stuff, to do the trail bike stuff. Everything's, they've got a whole range for you.
Dude, it's so exciting. Like seriously, Davey, like here you are, right? You're this rider and you're kind of like stuck in this street hardtail paradigm. And then all of a sudden you link up with a company like Norco, who just has so many different platforms. And not only that, like the companies, you know, they've been around for, 60 plus years. So they really have developed their platforms. Like every platform that they have, there's years and years of learning and technology that's gone into it. So like the bikes are insane. So I get to kind of just grow, like literally just have the opportunity to grow and put myself in situations that are, that are not familiar and learn, new things, new ways to ride and just have like new experiences. So it's been really exciting for me. And, they got so many bikes that I haven't even like scratched the surface really. So hopefully I can just continue like, cause it's tough because you want to stay progressive on your hardtail because that's what you love and that's what you kind of defined. Right. But then there's all these new avenues that you can go down and each one requires a lot of time, a lot of dedication to master. So it's actually been kind of tough as a rider trying to choose where to put your energy. And I've been just taking like a super intuitive approach, like just kind of like going with what I feel is fun, what I feel I love to ride, what's exciting, what's new. And being partnered with a company like Norco is insane because there's so much new that I almost have to like filter it back because and I think my approach is just simply like taking a new bike on a year, maybe. Like this year I went down to the 160 150 millimeter sight, which was just like a whole new experience in itself, and it was very familiar to the Shore, which is a 180 bike. But it was a lot more lighter and tactical. It was like a loam sniper, like anywhere there was loam, the bike was just like you just like had the scope and you find the loam, compared to a bike like the Shore, which is a lot more heavy and more of like a tank and wants to just eat the jank up. So it's endless, dude. It's endless and it's really exciting. So I'm like rambling like crazy.
I love it though. I love that. I love it. I love the idea though of like of athletes like yourself being a bit more multifaceted, like can go in and do a little bit of free ride, do some trail riding. I think moto guys have been doing that for a while with the evolution of free ride and certain athletes being quote unquote free riders, but they'll do a little bit of everything. Are you aware of like Ryan Sipes, who does pretty much anything you can do on a motorcycle. He does the odd supercross. He'll do GNCC races. He does like not freestyle, but some pretty big freeride stuff. He does flat track. I think that's so cool. But also for you to offer that to the brand like Norco and be like, look, I'm going to take almost everything that you make and I'll make content with it and learn to ride the bike and the discipline. I think that's so interesting. And there's definitely a lot of length in that as a content creator as well. So you can go down that journey and learn all about it. I think it's sick. Personally, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think the only thing I'm scared of is like getting too diverse and not being world class in anything. You know, like spreading yourself so thin where you're not actually bringing it on all your platforms. If that makes any sense. Like, hey, you can ride everything.
Yeah, it does.
Like, you're okay at everything. Like, I think that it's really important as an athlete to stay on, like, you know, to stay on a level where you're constantly pushing the sport, if that makes any sense. And it's almost like a responsibility, or at least I feel there's a responsibility that if you're creating content, like especially high production, high quality content, it needs to be progressive in one way or another. And I think that there's a big danger of becoming too diverse and you know, just like yourself, like having too many businesses and then all of a sudden all of them suck.
Yeah Totally.
Like,
over here, man, we call it jack of all trades, master of fuck all. That's what we call it.
So it's
you know, if I said to you now, like, if I said to you, most sort of multifaceted, talented rider, like mountain biker, who springs to mind? I'm just curious. Like, if you go, this guy is killing it at a bit of everything.
Oh, Brandon Semenuk.
To me, there's like, really, yeah, okay, great, okay, yeah, that's a good one actually. That's fair. That is really fair. Semenuk. I'd say as well, someone like Cade Edwards is on that level for me because he can ride BMX really good, downhill really good. He's just done Fest Series in South Africa, Sam's event. He looked really good at that. I think there's a few of those younger guys now coming up, like you just said, that can do a little bit of everything, but they do kill it at one thing, whether it's downhill or something. Would you say that's fair? I don't know.
Well, it's hard because we look at like Semenuk's career, and I think if you were going to compare it to like Cade, I don't think that would be fair to Semenuk. Because Cade's just getting started, you know, and Semenuk has this
totally
literally like 10-year legacy of innovation and greatness. But I see where you're getting at. You can totally compare it in the diversity, and I think it's really important for these days for riders to be diverse. I think that it's one of the most important things, but at the same time, you can't be too diverse to where you're not world class in anything. And I mean, it's crazy dynamic that we're in right now because you look at like Cade, for instance, you know, like a lot of sponsors, a lot of support, like not too many high quality videos and not too many insane, you know, like race results. But there's this crazy ass following on social media, and it's just like continually bringing this insane content that's just awesome to watch. Like, I don't know if you've ever like looked at his comments section when he does post a video, but the engagement is insane. And it's not just from like, you know, it's not just from kids, it's from actual like badass guys with like, you know, everyone's got check marks on their names, and they're all commenting, giving him respect. And I think that's really, for me, opened up like a whole new dynamic of like what a rider is, because I think sponsors want to see a rider who has proven himself in one dynamic or the next. Like, he's won a big contest. He has created a high production video project that's cracked the internet. But now there's like a whole new dynamic where they're owning the social media space, if that makes any sense. And it's exciting.
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
Like, I'm watching things as an older rider, like seeing how things are changing, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Just I never thought that the sport would go that way, and to see it go that way is so exciting and so powerful, because that means almost anybody can become like Cade, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
because the power of the cell phone, bro.
Yeah, it does. It is, dude. It is. It's the power of the cell phone. Whether you love it or hate it, like you said, you can't argue with a following like that, and how much, wouldn't you say, exposure, and how much sort of eyes that can bring to brands that are involved with a guy like that. So you can't argue with that fact, really. That's what brands want, whether you like it or not. That's what they're after.
It's exciting, and personally, I'm a huge fan, and I love his content, and I find it really inspiring, and I just love how many bikes he can ride. And to me, it's just I just get so excited, because I don't know if you've looked at like or been paying attention to mountain bike content in the last little bit, but there's something really special has been happening in mountain biking. I'd say in the last 9 months, the sport has absolutely progressed, and it has become a lot more diversified. Like, all of a sudden we're seeing hardtail clips, a lot more of it, which is really exciting to me as someone who's so passionate about hardtails. Like, seeing someone like Cade, who's so well.
Why do you think that is?
Like seeing someone like Cade.
Sorry,
who's
why
so well
do you think that is though? Why?
I don't know. Like, I don't know, but I think seeing someone like Cade who's so well respected as a World Cup racer and as a free rider at Darkfest and stuff, and then also doing great videos on the hardtail, just shining. Like, it's so exciting to me, because it's like I feel like hardtails have been like kind of underground for the last little bit, and now mountain biking's becoming so much more diverse again, and a lot more people seem to be getting on their hardtails and promoting it, and it's exciting for me as a hardtail enthusiast and lover of everything hardtails, just to see a light get shine on that more.
Yeah. I wonder if as well this pandemic's really driven that, because people haven't been able to travel as much, maybe to the local mountain area or bike park. So they've been forced to sort of buy a dirt jump bike, or buy a bike you can go ride the local pump tracks on, or ride some street on, just to keep active. I wonder if some of that's driven it, because there must be a reason, dude, that all hardtails are sold out. Like, it is, try buying a hardtail right now, it is almost impossible. So I think that must have had, I mean, it's hard to buy any bike, I'll be honest, but it must have had an impact on that. It definitely did for me. I was like, well, I'm at home more. We've got all these amazing dirt jumps around here. I need a hardtail. Whereas before, I'd have been like, nah, I'm cool. I'll just go ride, in the mountains or hills or whatever we have here at the weekends. So, I don't know. I think I agree, though, with the last 9 months has been a big change, because, again, I think this pandemic has driven bike companies to be more creative. It's driven some really interesting marketing. And I've really enjoyed, from someone who's interested in marketing and who plays a relatively small part in media and mountain biking marketing, watching it all play out and being like, right, what brands are doing what? And it's been really exciting. It's been super fun.
Yeah. So like, what have you seen? Because like, I'm really interested as a person who's also watching things that are happening right now. And I almost feel like more in a confused state. I haven't put my finger on what is happening, but I know that there's something big happening. There's a lot of innovation happening right now, especially in riding and in content. We think about Tom's Van Steenbergen's video. We think about Semenuk has dropped 2 insane videos. And then, of course, X Games. Yeah. X Games. Like,
Real MTB was huge.
What that brought to the sport. And now, with COVID seeming to kind of like taper off, and we're getting back into events. And then companies bringing in all this new innovative marketing, I'm really excited. Like I don't really, I know there's something big going on, but I can't put my finger on it. And I'm wondering if maybe you could put your finger on it.
Yeah, I don't think I feel like I'm the same as you. I don't think I can specifically put my finger on this is what it is, but I think bike companies they're in a weird spot right now because pretty much everything that they make is going to be sold out. They know that, right? So obviously I ride for Focus and I know that there is no bikes for sale. They don't have them to sell. They're sort of the sales guys now, instead of going into a bike shop and selling them bikes, they're allocating them bikes. They're saying this is all we have, this is all we can possibly make. So you can have 5, you can have 10, and I think that's driven the marketing to be a little bit more. It's not about selling bikes, it's about creating actual engagement and actual connection with people. I think that's what I feel it is. It's a lot. Before it was a bit more, I don't know, like, I wouldn't say pushy sales, that's probably wrong, but now they can do because, for a bike company, let's say they know all these bikes are sold, they can be a little bit more creative, a little bit more like, oh, let's just do something a little bit fun, a little bit more engaging, a little bit more on the edge, a little bit more fringe. So what I really liked, there's been a few marketing campaigns that I really like, and I'm, obviously I do ride for Focus, but I am going to shout them out because they did this Beat Your Screen Time campaign, which for me was amazing because I'm stuck at home, I'm working at home, you get caught up here, you're in your house, you're working, you don't find time to go for a ride, and they put this whole campaign together where the objective was to ride more than you spent on your phone. So that creates a real connection, like that's a real thing, a real goal. It's not just like, oh, look at that cool video of that guy shredding a bike. It's like, no, I'm going to actually try and beat my screen time. I'm going to ride more. And they were almost telling people to not go on social media. They were like, nah, put it down. Don't like our stuff. Don't comment. Don't just go ride the bike. So that was one that's really stood out. And I think a lot more bike brands and companies getting a bit more involved with sort of being more eco-friendly has been really fun to watch. I know 510 have done some stuff about, more eco-friendly sort of shoes and stuff like that. So that's been really cool. And I think there's just more bike brands and companies are trying to hit more touch points at the moment. They're trying to really, get into people's souls rather than just sell them a bike and forget about them. I think they're really trying to get people involved more. But that's just what, what I've seen. There's probably a bunch more that I'll have forgotten because there's so much content to take in. It's almost impossible to keep an eye on all of it.
It's crazy, eh?
But yeah, they're the ones that stand out to me. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think if there's any more. Your video just went off and it keeps throwing me. So sorry.
Man, I love the.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
I love that that campaign, Beat Your Screen Time. That is amazing, and I think for me, I'm just so excited and thankful to be a part of mountain biking in this exciting time. Like it's so insane, and
it is exciting, dude, to see so many new people getting involved and to see that bike brands have no bikes to sell. Whether that's an e-bike or a hardtail or whatever, we're getting new people into our sport, aren't we? And that can only be a good thing as long as they stay. And you'd like to think that they're going to go for a ride and they're going to love it. They're probably not going to go, oh, this is pretty boring. You'd like to think that these are new people to the sport that are going to stay in the sport. So yeah, I think it's ultimately a good thing. And I think the marketing side of it's been really exciting. Like you said, with real MTB, really short, punchy edits that people could get involved in, that they could comment on, they could share around. It wasn't like, oh, you send this 20-minute long edit to your friend and they're going to be like, oh, watch that another time. It's like a minute and a half punchy, short edit. As much as you might hate that, as a guy who's probably a bit like me, a bit more like, oh, I hate the short content stuff. I do like longer driven out sort of storytelling. I do like that, but there is a place now, right, for that 90-second hard hitter. Share it around, comment on it, have some fun with it. Be like, oh my god, I can't believe Braga or Danny or whatever or Brandon did this. So yeah, I don't know. It's been an exciting time, man, for mountain biking. And again, it's good to see that we've got Crankworks on as well this coming weekend when we're recording this in Innsbruck. it's an exciting time at the moment. I think there's a lot for people to get involved in. There's a lot of cool things happening. So, and some amazing podcasts.
Dude, yeah, it's it's a great time, and it's super exciting. And I think X Games did a really good job, actually, and mountain biking did an amazing job. Apparently, the mountain bike content at X Games, Real MTB, did better than any other action sport that they've ever done.
Yeah,
which is really exciting because it just shows that like mountain biking as itself is so healthy that like it doesn't need X Games, it doesn't need ESPN. Like ESPN and X Games need mountain biking.
It's true,
which is
fair.
sick.
Yeah.
That is sick.
That's true. That is
mountain
true,
biking's going to be fine, whether it has it or not. You know.
I don't know if you heard, but I had Clay Harper on the podcast with Braga. So Ollie and I were in one of those lockdowns, and so Clay Harper is the guy who sort of, I don't know if you know Clay, he put together the whole X Games Real MTB thing. Yeah. Really, really good guy. And yeah, it was a super fun episode to learn more about it and where it's going and stuff like that. So I think that's exciting, dude. You know, I agree with you. You know, X Games needs mountain biking, but ultimately that platform is huge to be putting mountain biking on.
It's pretty exciting.
That diverse style of riding too. You know, it was quite a diverse thing, wasn't it? Everyone, you know, brought different elements to it, and it wasn't a case of who just did the biggest banger. It was actually, yeah, interesting to watch and see how it was judged was cool. So yeah, it's an exciting time, man. It's an exciting time to be a part of this. I think to see it blow up a little bit over the last 2 years. Kind of a shame it took a global pandemic to make it happen, but would it have happened anyway? I don't know. You could say maybe it wouldn't, and people would have just done whatever they do, not going out mountain biking. But yeah, it's an exciting time, really exciting time.
Totally.
Let's just see what happens.
So
see what the future holds.
So let's get into these books here. So you know, how have you been incorporating the things that you've learned from all the books that we've read over the last couple months? Is there certain books and things that have been sticking with you?
Yeah, definitely, dude. Definitely. I think the War of Art will always stay with me. I think that's one of them that really went into my brain and it stayed there. You know, whenever I have that feeling of resistance, that like straight away comes to mind. And it's funny because I keep the book right here in front of me in case I ever fall off the wagon. I'm like, pick it back up, read a couple of chapters or pages, and I'm back in the game. So yeah, that one's really stuck with me, mate, over the last however many years since I first read that. It's arguably my favourite book of all time. It gives me that kick up the ass that I sometimes need as well. It really does. The last book we've read, the Waking Up by Sam Harris, was tough, to be honest. It was hard to read. I read it because I've heard so many good things about it from other people, and I think you've got to do that, right? You've just got to give it a chance. I have this rule that I've been doing for the last probably 3 years, that if anyone recommends a book, I have to buy it. So yeah, please don't recommend books to me on direct message because I have to buy them. So I have this thing, so if anyone recommends it, I'll be honest, it's probably someone that I trust, not just a random person. But if someone says, oh, you need to read this, I'll buy it, and then I'll put it to the back of the queue and I'll get round to it. So that one's been on there for a little while. And let me just ask you that question first back though, because I think that could be kind of interesting. So if any of the books that we've read, has anything stuck with you?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the War of Art because I hear it in other books. People talk about resistance in other books, and it always brings me back to the War of Art, you know, because that's the source of it. And it's so cool that, you know, like a big one for me has been Kevin Hart's. He's got an audiobook called The Decision, and he talks a lot about resistance in that audiobook. And that's one of my favorites. So it just kind of like brings me back to the War of Art, which is always cool. So obviously, the idea of resistance, like I had a lot of resistance in this last Freeride project that I tried to kick off, or Freeride exposure therapy, or Freeride toe dip. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, feeling the waters out. There was a lot of resistance there, man. Like I was like driving down the road and being like, oh my God, I should turn back. Like whole time, like just fighting resistance. So that was exciting. Always thinking about the resistance. I mean, still breath to this day.
Yeah.
I still am
same.
taping my mouth shut sometimes. And
really?
Always getting a better sleep. And when I don't tape my mouth shut, because I'm such a mouth breather, I wake up in the morning, my mouth is dry. And now I know it like a habit. I'm like, man, I was mouth breathing last night. I check out my sleep ring, and I'm like, oh, look at that. My average heart rate was up higher. I didn't get, as good a sleep as I could have,
Yeah.
And then, so I'm still taping my mouth shut and still messing with sleep and still messing with breath. So,
they're good ones. I think they're all really good takeaways.
Yeah, for sending me that book, man. The mind hacking, I'm still trying to hack my mind and change my.
Hopefully, it's a journey that you're always going to be on, dude. If you ever find how to do it, then let me know.
Yeah, well, one thing that's been kind of exciting that's kind of led me off of mind hacking, which is actually journaling, and I got into this other book called Leading with Character, and it kind of leaves with a 160-day journal challenge, which I've been going off of.
I'm just going to make a note of that because Leading with Character. I know I messaged you and asked you for it, but I totally forgot to buy it. Leading with Character, and to be honest, I'm sorry to interject there, Matt.
Yeah,
but
all good.
I'm glad you've brought that up because it's something that I wanted to talk to you about at some point during this episode was about journaling. I was just going to ask if you were still doing it because I'm a firm believer in you're called to things. I'm a firm believer in that now, whether you think it's woo-woo or not. I think if certain things keep cropping up and you go, that keeps happening, like I need to go down that route. And I really, really, really want to start journaling. I think it's been a crazy last 18 months and stuff, and I feel like myself, I've lost a little bit of direction, a little bit of purpose, and I really want to hammer down on figuring out some of that stuff. I think I go through this every few months, though, to be honest with you. I sort of go, fuck, where did those last few months go? What have I achieved? Where am I going? What's the big picture? Where am I headed? And I think it seems like a journaling practice is going to help me really figure that out. Has that been the experience you've had with it?
Well, this is exciting, man, because I just got to backtrack a couple feet here.
Please.
And then it's going to relate perfectly to you. Basically, like I've been looking a lot at performance and like peak performance, and a lot of the thinking that's out there of some of the great performance coaches is your character traits. Basically, like all great performances stem out of great character. And the secret to sustainable, great, powerful, impacting, inspiring performance is through character. Developing those character traits, those superhero character traits that people just can't help but admire. It's just like deep human stuff. And a lot of people, just like you said, sometimes feel lost. They feel disconnected from their character traits. Maybe they haven't found them out. They haven't discovered them. And, a lot of companies in business necessarily haven't identified their values, and they kind of just float in space. So this book, Leading with Character, is all about finding your values, creating a document, just like a company has its values, just like the SEALs, the Navy SEALs have their creed, which makes a SEAL a SEAL, and making a document for you that you can always go back on whenever you need guidance, or whenever you're making big decisions, or whenever you feel a little lost, or whatever it is. You can fall back on this document that is basically like your core value document that helps you kind of steer through life, so you don't get lost and you don't go down like rabbit holes. And sometimes these rabbit holes, they can take like 5 years out of your life, So I think it's a pretty powerful exercise. It's something that's been like really extremely important to me, just like getting my values down and understanding what my life's mission is, so I can get to work and complete it and basically not die and be like, fuck, on my deathbed, which is pretty extreme. And
that's cool. That's perfect.
And it's pretty extreme, and it's not for everybody, but for me, especially as an athlete who wants to innovate the sport and inspire others in this time of social media and full transparency, where people can just like literally tune into your life any second they want via social media or maybe even these podcasts, I think it's really important to just get as dialed as possible on who you are, who you want to be, and develop those strong character traits that you want in yourself, because that's going to leak through in everything you do, if that makes any sense.
Does 100%. It does it makes a lot of sense, and I think that's exactly at the moment what I need. I feel I have been called to it. It keeps cropping up in various podcasts, and I was just listening to one the other day, which was a podcast with a guy called Eric Godsey, who's been on Aubrey Marcus's show a bunch of times and on Kyle Kingsbury's podcast, and he was talking about it, and everything he was saying, when it's just clicking and you're like, yeah, I need that, yeah, I need that, yeah, I need that. And I was like, okay, right, I'm going to make myself a date, and I'm going to start journaling, and I'm going to stick to it. And I put a thing out on the podcast Instagram just asking if anyone had any recommendations, and some really good ones came back. But I think this book, how does it work? Does it guide you through it day by day, or is it a week by week thing? How does it work?
You basically read the book, and then at the end there's a journal that comes with the book, and it's 160 day journal challenge that basically helps you create this creed for yourself. And it's something that, and he's worked with a lot of incredible athletes and taken them to the next level. And I think even himself, he was a professional shooter for the Olympics, and apparently he didn't even shoot for like a couple years, and then he just went into the Olympics and won a gold. He did it all through like mental practice and all this stuff. So he's a pretty interesting guy. So basically,
do you just go classic pen and paper then?
Yeah. And that's the that's the exercise that he puts his athletes through. So it's pretty cool that he would just put that in a book just for everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it. I'll buy it right after this. I need that in my life.
and for anyone listening, like, I wouldn't recommend that book to anybody really. Like a normal person, it's something that it's pretty gnarly book to get into. You're digging deep into your values, deep into what you think is right, what you think is wrong. They talk a lot. They use drunk driving as an example. Like, when is it, like, are you the type of person who has one drink and you won't drive, or is like you're going to have a drink and a half and drive? Like, where's your moral line? So like it's a pretty deep thinking book, and that's good. It's pretty wordy and will push you. So I don't really recommend it for everybody, but if it's something that, if you're looking to develop character traits, strong ones, I think it's a really great book. And I think that's important for any athlete, because great character traits ultimately lead to great performance.
Okay. Awesome. No, I'm gonna give it a shot, dude. Like I said, I'm hungry for that stuff. I need a bit of a reality check. I think what it's been is, I sound silly this, but it's been so hard running a company and starting this thing and everything for so long that the last year or so has been kind of chill. Like finally things have started doing okay, and I think again we spoke about bikes being sold out and stuff, so that relates to what I do. You know, we've been really busy as a company and we've been growing, and I set up my own sales agency which is doing, you know, pretty good. The podcast starting doing really well, and I think it's been so hard for so long that I've become a little bit complacent in it, and I've got a really naturally high work ethic. It's you know, I never take days off. Like I don't do that. You know, I'm here all the time working and, you know, always in contact with customers and stuff. But I just feel that inside I've let it slip a little bit. I've just become a bit complacent, and I'm quite weird with money and stuff. We spoke about this a little bit before, I think, on the show, that I never feel deserving of money. So whenever I do actually get some, I'm like, I don't like it. Like I feel too comfortable. I miss the grind and the like stress. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to go back to that. But it's about realizing now that you've almost, okay, there's this. You're always striving for these things, these goals in your life, and when you hit one, you go, okay, what next? And that's what I'm at. I'm at like, okay, I've done what I've set out to do. I've got that thing to this level. Now where does it go? And I think that's when you need to take some real time off to figure that shit out, because otherwise you get complacent like I'm doing and you just bumble along, and then like you said, next thing you know you're like, holy shit, it's been a year. Oh my. And I'm doing it now. You know, we're in the middle of 2021 already, and it feels like it's the middle of 2020. We've gone forward a year, and I don't feel like really, I just feel like it's gone so fast, and I've not really taken stock of where I'm at personally with my businesses, with everything. I've just gone along with the flow, and I think that's almost a nice segue maybe into doing the mindfulness meditation, which is what the last book that we spoke, which we're going to talk about a little bit. That's where that comes in, and having a good practice for that stuff as well is helpful, because I'm pretty bad for just not stopping. I'll just keep going and going and going and going. And although I do have these really healthy traits because they're in me now, whether it's going in the cold or whether it is a little bit of meditation or good podcasts or a long walk, I have those built in. But almost, do you feel like sometimes you can supersede those and you just need that extra thing now to keep building on top of it, or you do become complacent?
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, a lot of information, a lot of waffle.
Well, for me, it's a constant battle every day to get up and do the routine. But it's just something you got to do. And it depends on what your goals are. Sometimes my goals are different, and I got to adjust my life leading into projects and stuff. Like, for instance, this next month of my life is going to be a lot of work. I'm doing a lot of work for a bike park, Silver Star. I'm doing shooting here, and I'm building trails. So I'm going to be in the excavator on the bike. You know, it's going to be intense. So I need rest.
Yeah.
You know, I need to build myself up.
Yeah.
I don't need to put out, right? So my routine changes. And I think it's important to be like loving and caring to yourself, to allow yourself the flexibility of that. And I think that sometimes routines can be really rigid, and you like, you know, depending on what your goals are, basically you got to adjust, is what I'm saying. And I struggle every day, like, with my routine, but I feel really good when I check all the boxes. But I'm not looking to add anything necessarily because it's already so freaking long. Like, I could spend 2 hours every morning doing my thing, you know? That's insane. Who has 2 hours every morning, right? Yeah. And I feel blessed that I can take the time to do that. I certainly work hard for it, you know, and I've designed my life around it that I can do that. And I know every time I do it, it's like putting money in the bank. But, you know, some days it's just impossible to do it. And some days you just need to sleep. So you got to kind of make the balance. But I don't think that, like, I'm looking to really add anything to my routine, if that's what you're saying. But I'm definitely
No,
being a little more flexible on myself, like, and setting like certain parameters. Like the next 2 months is a lot about building the body, so routine is really important for that. And that's the goal. And I think, speaking to you, before we get into this book and stuff, and I think that it's it's a big part of being goal orientated is tough, because when you do accomplish the goal, you feel like, what next? And there can be this big drive of work up to this pinnacle moment, and then all of a sudden you accomplish it, and then you're like, what? There can be depression after, and that happens with athletes and all sorts of driven people. And I think that the solution to that, because I've definitely experienced that, is to just never see the end and only pick things that are never ending, like exercise, for instance. Like, you're just going to do it forever.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah. It's just going to always be there, right?
Riding.
Yeah.
Riding. Like, I'm never going to not get better at riding at some aspect and another. It's endless, So all I'm doing today is just competing against myself yesterday. And if I surpassed it, it's like, yes. If not, it's like, oh. But it's tough, because when you set out these high goals, like, oh, I'm gonna have 50 grand in my savings account, and then you like grind, save 50 grand, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh fuck, what now? And then all of a sudden you got all these emotions that you've been suppressing, and then they come up like a tidal wave and smash you, and maybe you go buy a fucking $100,000 truck, and then you're 50 grand in debt. So you really didn't make any headway. So it's crazy to make this sustainable. It's almost like you gotta, the goal is the work, if that makes any sense, to just continually put in the work and
it is.
I've
been really trying hard to like disconnect from. Yeah, I've been really trying hard though, dude, to like disconnect from the finance side of things over the last few years, because I've come to the realization that the more you think about, okay, how much money is this going to make, the more stressful it is, and ultimately it's just not healthy. So I'm focused now on either how is it going to make me a better person, or is it fun and is it cool to do? And that is pretty much how the podcast has grown. It's like, this is fun. Like, I get to speak to fun, cool people. And then the rest of it just follows. And I think that's really been a big learning curve for me, is that not worrying about the financial side, not worrying how much is this going to cost, how much is it going to make. Just do it if it's fun, ultimately, because you're super motivated to do stuff then as well. You're like, oh, this is sick. I get to sit here and speak to Matt for a few hours. Like, that's awesome. There's nothing else is involved. Everything else just comes along for the ride at some point. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, because we still got to do stuff anyway. So I've been really, really working hard on that. And I think now, personally, I'm at a point, where I'm at that, like, sort of buoyant for once. So you can do more fun stuff, because all of the fun stuff used to just get forgotten about, because it was about paying the bills, paying the mortgage, doing this, doing that. And now I'm like, what the fuck do I do with myself? I'm a bit all over the place. So, I know we sort of started off talking about this, but even getting the dirt jump bike was a pretty monumental moment for me, because I've wanted one for so long, but I was never like, at that point where you were like, yeah, I'll just spend £2,000 or whatever. Like, I'll just buy one. It was like really hard to get there. And whenever you got there, something else came and kicked you in the ass and like fucked things up. So it was like a really like, oh shit, like I've finally done it and I don't have to really worry about it. It's like, cool, I can just go ride my bike now with more friends and stuff, and it's going to benefit my life so much more. And it's kind of crazy we're just talking about a bike, but those things are monumental, man. Like, that's what you work for. That's what I've been grinding for so many years, to have that freedom to be able to do that sort of stuff. But now I have it, I'm like, oh, now what? Now where do we go? Now what's the next step? So getting back to what we were talking about, the journaling is definitely going to help me figure out some purpose and some sort of reasons behind all of this stuff, which I think sometimes it's easy to get lost track with it, man. You just don't know why you get up every day in the morning. I bet there's loads of people listening to this who have got a 9-to-5 job that probably hate, and they're like, why do I do this again? Like, what's the end goal? Like, you talk about things going on forever like exercise, but some people have unfortunately got jobs like that are just going on forever, and there's no end goal. There's no like, they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. So yeah, I really want to always try and be challenging those thoughts and challenging those ways of living as well, like quite extremely, to be honest. I always want to be trying to push myself and figure out why and what direction things are going in, and is it the best direction,
Stoked for you, man. That's awesome.
Waffling.
Dude, you mind if I take
so
a
tell
quick
me
break?
Go on. No, mate, not at all. Take a break.
No. I just need to hit the bathroom.
Nah, just leave this thing rolling.
Then let's get into this book.
Yeah. Okay.
Dude, this is awesome. I love talking to you, man.
No, man, I appreciate it. It's always nice. Just a heads up, so your files are uploading really slowly. So at the end of this, you're going to just have to leave this browser window open for a bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it open forever.
Because only 700 megabytes has uploaded out of 2,000. So it's like halfway uploaded. So it's going to take a little while after to get it done.
Okay.
But if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
And your video keeps going off, which keeps throwing me, but it's all good.
The internet.
It's okay. That Canadian Wi-Fi is not good, is it?
No, but at least we're still making it happen. Dude,
oh yeah, beggars can't be choosers.
I'm stoked for you, man. Like just hearing you grow and evolve and being your friend and be able to, witness it is pretty awesome, and it's certainly inspiring to me as I get into the podcasting and stuff. And it's awesome, man, having you as like a mentor and seeing where you're going with things and being able to help you out, with little things in my life that trickle into your life. And also you're doing the same thing with me with some of the things that you're putting my way. I mean, breath was a huge one. And just being able to share these books has just been so exciting, man. And
thank you. Really kind, man. It's fun. I honestly, it's all right back at you. Like legit, it's a pleasure.
This book though was not a pleasure. This was, for me, man. This was a tough one, dude. Like I literally read. I probably read 4 books in between this book. And it just
was tough.
like
it was a hard one.
There was just certain things. It just got so wordy. He got so deep into things. Sam Harris is just like explaining things in the most minute detail, and just getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into things. And then all of a sudden, like bringing in new topics. Like, I don't know about you, but it was crazy for me because the whole time we're talking about consciousness, religion, all this stuff, the brain, which was really interesting, hearing what's going on about the brain and what does this mean about consciousness? And then all of a sudden he gets into the teachers. And then the last, 30 minutes of the book, he just throws in psychedelics. He's just like, well, bam, there's some psychedelics in the mix, and then peace. And I'm like, what the fuck, man?
I know. You know what? I can imagine it was really difficult hearing it. Reading it was tough too, man, because that takes a few more hours. And is there anything worse than when you're not inspired to read a book and you still have to pick it up because we're doing this? Not that it's a bad thing, but I know we're going to talk about it at some point. I mean, it was 2 months ago now when I last read this book, but I remember being like, fuck, this is going to be hard to talk about for a few reasons. Number one, a lot of it I don't understand because I'm not smart enough. Yep. Number two, I really struggle talking about certain topics like religion. That's a hard topic for me to cover because I've been trying to figure that out since I was born. And I'm 34 now and I'm none the wiser of what it is and why people are so into it and stuff. Yeah, dude, I'm with you 100%. I think this was one of those books that, again, I feel like I was called to. It kept coming up on various podcasts and various other people that I read or listen to. They'd always talk about Waking Up by Sam Harris. And the meditation app, which is also called Waking Up, is amazing. It is an absolute incredible app that I've paid for a long time. I don't use it anymore. I've got a different one, and I dare say I was a little bit drawn to it because I do like Sam Harris's voice, and I actually do like listening to him talk. Even if I don't understand it, I'm like, oh, that's super interesting. But then it's one of those, a lot of the topics just go in one ear and out the other, unfortunately, and I'll never remember anything, which is a personality trait that, again, I can't seem to figure out. I'm pretty bad at retaining information. I often say, with the amount of podcasts I listen to and the amount of books I read, I should be so smart, and I'm still feel as dumb as I was when I was 13. I still feel exactly the same. I'm none the wiser. But yeah, this was a tough one, man. And I was thinking about it today a little bit about how to talk about some of these topics. And I think probably for me, just outlining a few key moments that I did actually take away and asking you if you had similar experiences would probably be the best way of tackling this, because I feel like if we tried to figure out, I don't know, what consciousness is, I'm going to struggle with that. I'll be honest with you. It's not going to be a fun and easy conversation. It might be fun because you could just laugh at me because I'm such a douchebag, but
no, dude. It was enjoyable in a lot of aspects. It was definitely a big growth book for me. A lot of the things went over my head. Just because he was so smart and so technical, and he dove so deep into things, that it just kind of a lot of it kind of threw over my head. There's a lot of tough topics in it that he kind of touches on, which are cool and exciting to kind of bring into mountain biking, I guess. I mean, religion is obviously a tough one, and he bants on religion pretty hard near the end, and that's pretty fresh in my mind because I literally just finished the book this morning for you guys. For you guys listening to this, I had such a hard time with this book that I read I put pause button on and read 4 books in between, and then last night crushed 1/3 of the book, and then this morning just re-upped on the end to get a little bit dialed. But he was he went pretty hard on religion in the end and just talked about how this blind spot basically that we have about our consciousness and our self, which is an illusion. We have this idea of who we are, and it's not who we actually are. And the whole idea of consciousness and practice and meditation is to unveil your true self and see you for what you really are. I think that's what he was leading to a lot in the book. And then he says that basically religion is just setting you up to keep those blind spots so you can never see who you really are. And he like threw that right in the end, which was pretty gnarly, you know, because religion definitely helps a lot of people. Like I've seen, like, for instance, like alcoholics, and you know, like Alcoholics Anonymous, is it that one of the biggest? Yeah. One of the biggest, basically AA, one of the biggest things that helps people stop drinking. And I have friends who I've literally seen roll through that and who were not religious, but, you know, find God and then stop drinking and then like literally become like so much better people just because they found them. And like, damn, you know, religion, I think for some people holds, you know, some really good and positive things. And it was just crazy to kind of hear him talk like that. But I know that he's a pretty controversial guy anyways. So it was pretty exciting.
And a huge atheist.
Yeah. And eye-opening. And like, I'm an atheist too. So I kind of like affiliate more with what he's saying. But at the same time, I was like, whoa, dude, like that was pretty, some pretty big, you know, some haymakers he threw in the end.
Yeah. So what is your religious? Do you have any did you have a religious upbringing? Is it in your family at all, or are you fully not into that?
Well, you're gonna love this actually. So I have a Scottish grandmother who is extremely religious. Right. I would put her on the extreme side of Christianity. And she loves the Lord. God bless her soul. And she sent me to, you know, I spent a lot of my childhood with her. And I went to church with her, of course, and even got admitted into like Bible camps, which is really cool stuff that the church will do. They basically host free camps for kids that, you know, don't have much money. Their parents don't have much money, but they can't really afford summer camps. Yeah. So they go with a camp with the church. So I was in those, and I was fully immersed in like, you know, in Christianity, like growing up. And it's been really cool to kind of like, you know, go through life and kind of like be in it and then kind of grow out of it, because action sports tends to be far away from religion in some aspects, if you ask me. Yeah. And then obviously to get into like with all the rock and roll bands and the drinking and the partying, and that kind of like took me even further away on like the furthest spectrum away from Christianity as possible. But then to get to this level of where you're pushing the sport and doing these things and listening to your intuition and having such crazy experiences while filming these videos and while riding, it makes you almost question, makes you go right back to the beginning. Because, like, I've had certain experiences, and I still have it to this day, where I see vivid visions of me pulling moves, like insane moves, you know?
Wow.
And then I go and I do them.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, so sometimes they don't happen right away, and it'll take months, you know, to build up. But sometimes it just happens right away, and it's freaking crazy, man. And sometimes it's
wow.
It's
and where do you see these visions, dude?
Well, I just see them. Like it's crazy, but like I'll see them even before, like, you know, like I'll have like that Cork 7 on the open loop with the hardtail. Mm-hmm. You know, I saw that like years ago. I didn't even know it was me at the time, because I was riding a bike that I didn't ride. I was dressed in a kit that I didn't see, you know, and yet I was going to evolve into that person. This last trail bike project I had similar visions like that. And then you literally get there, and I'm in the moment, and I'm like, wow, I've lived this. like already before, and then you're so comfortable in that moment that this thing comes over you and you just perform at this level that I would say is like 150% of you. You're like 50% over your normal performance level. If it's crazy. And that is almost a religious experience. Okay? So now you have like being an action sport athlete and pushing myself to those limits, right? Yeah. I have to fully, look back at religion and go, holy shit, like I'm having fucking crazy experiences out here in the flow state, seeing things, doing things that's freaking, crazy. I don't even have words for it. I could maybe even go to an insane asylum if I fully get into it, If we start throwing like psychedelics in the mix and all that shit, which I'm sure we'll get into later, but it makes you just question the fact of religion. It's like full circle, And there's a great book, Rise of Superman, which gets really into this, and it talks a lot about action sport athletes in the flow state and having such transcendent experiences that a lot of them go back to religion. And Travis Rice, for instance, who was like grown up an atheist, literally now I don't know the guy personally, but he's kind of religious, like literally because of his experiences through action sports. So when in terms of me and religion, it's crazy because I don't really know where I'm at. I'm still exploring it. I don't necessarily I don't believe in a God like Christianity, or I don't follow a faith like Buddhism or all that stuff. I'm simply, I would say I'm an atheist, but I'm having these questionable religious experiences constantly in action sports, and it questions my atheism.
Dude, wow, you've uncovered something there which I didn't know we'd go down this rabbit hole. So what, these visions then, do you know, okay, how do they manifest? You said they happen all the time. It's not necessarily in sleep and stuff. And then do you know when you're about, let's say, to drop into that cork 7, you're like, oh shit, this is that moment. This is the kit. Oh my God, this is the bike. So it's almost like extreme, what's it called? When you feel like you've lived something before. It's like deja vu. It's like extreme deja vu when you've seen almost every element of that thing.
And comfort. Like you're so comfortable because it just feels like this was a dot, like a moment in time where you're just supposed to be right there doing that. And it's like not even you doing it. It's like something else. It's insane. I'm still trying to bring words to it, and I haven't really spoke about it much. And I wonder if there's more action sport athletes that have feelings like this. But
I was just going to ask if you spoke to anyone else that's had
for
this.
For me, it's just so like that. Like it's so visual. It's insane. And maybe it's meditation because, obviously we talk about meditation. And he talks about it in this book where you're like constantly thinking about the future, and then you manifest the future. I think he kind of touches on that, and maybe I'm doing some of that stuff. I don't know, but I wouldn't classify it as that. I would classify it as like all of a sudden you're just chilling, you're just doing your thing, you're making breakfast, whatever. You're like stirring up your oatmeal, and then all of a sudden you just see this like image of yourself doing something freaking insane, and then it just kind of goes away, and then it just keeps reoccurring, and then all of a sudden at some point in your life you find yourself in that moment, okay, and then the comfort is so amazing, so insane, like you're just full comfort, like relaxed, like you just smoked like 10 doobs and had a massage and you're on the couch, but you're at the top of the roll-in about to do the gnarliest thing you ever done. It's insane.
Wow. And so do you have these like stored up? Do you know there's more in you? Like, is there more, have you experienced more, but you've not lived it yet?
Yeah, dude. And that's the scariest thing. The scariest thing is knowing what's inside, what's coming up, and it's terrifying because like some of them you're like, dude, no way. And the Cork 7 was terrifying for years. It's like I'm almost living in denial of them. Like it's like something deep is calling you to do something, and you're like, no fucking way. No fucking way. Like the hero's journey.
Wow.
You're denying the call to adventure. And then eventually you get to a point in your life where you're ready to take it on, and then it happens. And I have loads of them, and I journal about them. I write them down in my book, man. You know, I got like so many freaking notebooks, and they're just filled with these, and it's crazy, and so far pretty much all of them come up, and it's really kind of scary knowing the future ones, and you just like you know, the whole time in your head you're like no, because your body's just like
just waiting
for
it to manifest.
Mind is like no, dude, but it something ends up happening where it just ends up working out, and yeah, it's the best way I could describe it. Probably sounds pretty crazy, and I'm sorry for listeners listening to me trying to describe this state because it's actually undescribable, but it's very visual.
Yeah.
And it's very potent, and there's a extreme level of comfort when it comes into existence. And I have those.
I would love to hear if anyone else has had those experiences. Like, reach out, like, get in touch with me or Matt. I'd love to hear from more people if that's a thing, because I can honestly say I've never had anything. I mean, I think everybody has deja vu when you're like, oh, I've been here before. That's weird. Then, I don't know, but I have that, but never manifested anything like that. I wonder if that is sort of more aimed at action sports athletes because you are pushing the boundaries so much, and you are, you know, you're trying to elevate things, and maybe this is the calling, dude. Maybe you're doing the thing. That could be it. You are doing the thing that someone has put you on this earth to do, and it is manifested in front of you. Who knows?
This is the weird thing about consciousness and religion, right? Like, who's that thing putting you on the earth to do this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, dude,
yeah.
You know, it's just like so many questions. And for me, like, I'm just over fucking questioning it. I'm just like, okay, whatever. I get these visions. I get them all the time. Like, even when I go work with athletes to help them build stunts for films, I see it. I see it. They describe it to me. I see it, and then I go and build it. It's really similar to that, and I just don't question it. And I'm just like, whatever. I don't know where these are coming from, but I just got to deal with them, and I deal with them the best I can, and you know, try not to go crazy and think about it too much, because where are those? Where are they coming from?
Where is it coming from? Yeah.
like, dude.
Jeez.
It's insane. Yeah. So like, it was cool though reading this book and seeing kind of Sam Harris dive as deep as he can into it. Obviously, like he basically dives as deep as he can and then states that he doesn't fucking know and no one knows, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the end of this book. Wow. So you don't put yourself in a particular religious belief anymore, or you never have?
No.
Even when you were young, did you think, no, this is the thing? Okay.
Even when I was young, it didn't feel right. I felt like there was a lot of growth, you know, and I've been exploring that growth, and I've gotten to the point now where I'm having such crazy experiences that it makes me question, okay, like, what is out there? There has to be something spiritual, whatever it is. And that's why I said in our last podcast, you know, spirituality is something that I need to work on. And it's just a part of my life that I'm not sure, you know, what the deal is. And it needs some attention.
It's interesting. You know, the word spirit comes from the word spiritus, which is Latin for breath, which is pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? Super interesting. Which I
Well,
think is it's all connected.
yeah, Laird Hamilton says that consciousness is the breath. Like spirit is breath. Like that's life. But then it gets even more crazy
I
because
think.
oh
No, go on.
then I
Let's get
say
more
then it
crazy.
can get even more crazy because a molecule or a cell is influenced. Science knows this is influenced by outside sources. The environment tells the cell what it's going to be. So if you're breathing in stuff, well, like you're breathing in all this material, and then that's telling you what's going on inside. So maybe that you're breathing in spirit. Who knows? I mean, this is way, way, way above my pay grade. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah. That's why I'm so nervous about like the religious talk, because it's so way above my pay grade too. I know what I know inside. I'm not religious. I'm probably err on the side of being, I don't even know the bloody word for it. I err on the side of being atheist. Sorry, atheist. However, I do think there is a lot of value in certain aspects of religion, especially older people. Maybe as you're getting older and you're going to pass into that next life, whatever that could be, that having that community around you and having a belief in that something is going to happen, I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that's where religion probably has a lot of benefits, is that, if you are an old, lonely person, putting your faith into that thing is a lot better than just sitting there and waiting to die and just thinking that everything's just going to turn off and it's done. So I think that there is certain, benefits to religion for sure, whether I believe in it or not. I sort of aim more on the side of just being a good person is my religion, if that kind of sounds crazy, but having good morals, that's my religion. I do enjoy certain aspects of Buddhism. I enjoy philosophy and stuff like that, and I've found that as I've got a little bit older, that I do take aspects of that and I try and live my life by sort of certain things. I guess Buddhism is probably more my vibe, to be honest, although again I wouldn't want to be a Buddhist monk, but at the same time, I don't really believe in most of the stuff that's in the Bible. I've never read the Bible. I've been to church a few times, but ultimately I'm sort of just whatever. If people find comfort in it, great. As long as it's not hurting anybody, then it's fantastic. But yeah, I'm again, I really struggle to talk about this stuff because I don't have a view on it, to be honest. It's just like, yeah, whatever. If that's what you find value in, great. But obviously you do have to look at other aspects of it where people are dying because of religion. They're fighting. There's wars over religion. So there's obvious negative effects as well. But ultimately, I think I just sit right in the middle. Personally, I'm just like, yeah, cool, whatever, do whatever, as long as you're not killing people. Then
I try and bring a level of respect. Like if I always just try to respect others, and if they, if they're religious and they have beliefs and they have things that they got to do to respect those beliefs, well, I'm going to respect you. So, go ahead and do your thing. Whatever makes you the best person, right? Like, hell yeah, do it, man. I think it's sick.
I think it is fun to challenge the beliefs, though. It is fun to challenge the whole thing, especially when we have such, sort of, we lean on it so heavily as countries, as nations. We lean so heavily on religion, which, you could argue was potentially made up and written down, and it's just stories passed on through generations and millennia and whatever. I think it's very difficult to base wars on religion and all that sort of stuff. It's hard for me personally to get my head around the fact that anyone would believe so hard in something that they'd kill somebody over it. I don't think I believe in anything that much that I'd kill somebody over it. I think that's really difficult to get my head around, and the fact that your God is less of a God than the God I believe in, and do I believe that there's someone in the sky watching over me? Probably not. Has there been moments in my life where I've thought that someone's watching over me? Probably, yes. You go, holy shit, how did that happen? Someone must be watching over me today. Like, how did I not just die? How did that amazing thing happen to me? So I think, having some sort of belief in a higher power is tough, but ultimately it's quite nice at the same time to think that there is something out there, looking over you. I don't know. Such a tough topic to get into for someone as limitlessly educated as myself.
It's interesting though, and we can try for fun. Like, think about it. For instance, like, what is the difference from an action sport athlete that sees visions of them doing moves, and goes out to do those moves and works hard to pull them off because of some calling or whatever, to a pair, comparing that to someone who gets some sort of message from God to go out and kill somebody or do something, right? Like, dude, you could say that those are pretty damn similar.
Yeah, you could.
It's
And
just
also
different
to what I said earlier about being called to things, you could just say that's God, right? I could just be like, well, God keeps telling me that I need to start journaling. I could say that. And you'd be like, okay, something is. Is it coincidence? Probably. Like, is it that I put myself in those circles and I listen to those things and I open to those ideas? That's probably more what it is, but you could argue that I could just say God. I could say anything.
True. And you could argue too that I am preemptively building these visions inside of my head, through years of just watching videos and learning, like drawing in my notebooks, It's like you're consciously listening to material about journaling, which is just building the case to journal. So there's some, that there's some intent in there, and you could say it's a higher power calling you to journal, or you could be like, no, dude, actually, you've just been listening to some shit over a while, and journaling just keeps coming up, and you're building that's being methodically built in you. So there's like multiple arguments here, and it's exciting to like where the lines are, and I think it just speaks to the culture, like the cultural norms of our society. Obviously it's okay to be called from God to go out and journal or do some sick moves on your bike, but it's not good if you called from God to go kill people. Like, that's no good, But there's definitely, like, as human beings, there's certainly like a spiritual aspect. Like, you can't deny it. There's something. Even me as an atheist, through my experiences on this planet, there is some sort of spiritual aspect to life, especially if you spend a lot of time in nature, which I do. You can feel it. And I think it would be silly to just suppress that and say it doesn't exist. My attitude is just to acknowledge it and to deal with it the best I can.
Yeah, no doubt. But you're right, though. You do feel that sort of stuff when you spend more time in nature, when you're in the woods. Maybe you're barefoot. Maybe you're listening more intently to the birds and the noises of a forest and stuff like that. There's a spiritual energy that comes from that. I certainly feel it, and I know from personal experiences that there's points in my life where I know that is what I need. Like, I need to spend some time away outdoors in a forest, whether it's with a bike or not, really. Like, I just need to be out. And to me, that's my church. Some people feel that they need to go and connect closer to God, and they go to a physical building, and that's fine if that's what you think. That's where you're going to get that peace in your mind, and maybe you get a little bit of a sign from something. Again, you could argue that any space that you enjoy being in is your church, really. This is hard.
It's interesting, eh?
I really struggle with.
I mean, basically, though, like, he covers the mystery of consciousness and the illusion of self, which is pretty freaking cool when you get into it. Like, it is really cool. I think that he went in a little bit too much, and it was hard to stick with him because he was using such big words, and he was getting so like specific about like everything, and that was really tough. But I understand that he needed it to be like that because consciousness is so undefined. Like, it's all so undefined that he needs to break it down like this just to get like definitions and stuff so people know what he's talking about, like other smart people. But for me, it definitely went way above my head. But the illusion of self is really cool because and blind spots, because as an action sport athlete, you have a lot of blind spots, and you got to pay attention to them because they can get you injured. Your ability, for instance, is one. Like, what are you actually capable of doing? You need to know that, or you're going to show up to a shoot and you're going to nuke yourself, and the whole shoot is going to be a shit show because you've broken your legs on this side of the mountain, and now they got to get the heli to come pull you out. So like, you got to really have a really accurate perception of what you're capable of and what you're not. And unfortunately, since the self is an illusion, there's a lot of blind spots in there, and it's really easy for someone to either overestimate or underestimate their abilities. And if you're overestimating, you're getting hurt. If you're underestimating, you're not living up to your potential. So there's this fine line that an action sport athlete must walk, which is fascinating to me. So it was cool to hear him talk about that.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad you had definitely that takeaway from it, and something to consider hopefully moving forward as well. But I feel, the religion conversation is tough, dude. Just to go back to that, I really struggle with it. I've always struggled to make sense of it from being a kid. I haven't been brought up around that stuff, like I said before. And, as much as I keep trying to learn about it, the more confused I get. And I've tried watching, like, Jordan Peterson does some breakdowns of the Bible. I've tried those, and I'm just like, it's too much. I'm not educated enough to understand it. I haven't read the text to even try and understand it. And it's just basically becomes a waste of time. So I think, erring on the side of caution with this, I'm just going to sit right in the middle of, if you're religious, then brilliant. If you just don't kill anybody, but ultimately look at different religions, because there is a lot to be learned, like Hinduism and stuff like that. Buddhism, although it's not a religion, it's more of an ideology, is beautiful. Like, if you can read some books about Buddhist philosophy and stuff like that, you're ultimately going to hopefully live a much better life and a much more mindful life, which for me, that's what the aspects that I did take away from this book was the sort of classification of how important meditation is. And I did definitely do a lot more meditation after reading this book. I got into this new app, which I think I sent you a link for ages ago, called Balance, which is amazing. Absolutely love it. I got a guy who's actually one of the founders coming up on the podcast pretty soon. Love meditating, but again, I keep falling off the wagon with it. So I was just going to ask you, just to flip the script again a little bit, about meditation. Are you still actively meditating daily? Is the journaling now classed as meditation? Like, how does your meditation practice look?
Interesting. Yeah, he did talk a lot about meditation in this book, and it was pretty cool for him to speak about it. I mean, my personal meditation practice hasn't really changed. I found a good groove in it, and I try to do it as much as I can. And basically, I do it after some Wim Hof breathing, because I feel like it just kind of sets you in a different space. And then I just start out with some thankfulness, 3 things that I'm just deeply thankful for. And they're usually friends and family, usually health, just try to be really thankful for my health, because I feel so strong right now, and I've been injured so many times so badly. So just, appreciating that. And then just kind of being and just clearing out, like just letting everything kind of unwind. And I say that like, you got all these thoughts inside your head, all this stuff. I just let that unwind. And once that's unwinded, I do another practice, which is so freaking powerful. And I just envision myself in the future, healthy, strong. What do I want? What do I want to be? What am I working towards? How do I just picture myself accomplishing my goals, feeling strong and powerful, and yeah, being the person I want to be in 3 months, 6 months, and if I have time, I'll go for a year. And that can take me anywhere from, that can take anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. And that just depends on the day, how much time I got, what's going on. And I classify my meditation practice, like I will do my meditation practice before working out. Like if I only have a certain amount of time where I was like, okay, well, damn, I only have an hour, which means the working out or meditating, I'll cut working out for the meditating, because I think that
really,
my arena anyways, in action sports, it's important to have a stronger mind than body, if that makes any sense. So that's my practice.
It makes a lot of sense.
And
that's fascinating.
I've been sticking to it and been really enjoying it. I don't have any guided meditation, nothing like that. I just try and do it in silence because mind hacking, not to get back to the books, but mind hacking and also the book Breath, they focus on silence and the power in silence, which was crazy. I didn't really hear Sam Harris talk too much about silence, which was interesting.
I think he's more pushing his app. I think he's more like, download the app, please. I think that's mostly what it is. It's interesting to hear, though, that you don't use an app. You see, I really struggle without an app. As much as I keep really trying to sit and be mindful without an app, I always come back to having a guided meditation practice. I think I don't know what it is. You could say I need it, but I arguably don't. I don't think you need it. But for me, it sets the tone a little bit more. I think even setting the timer of how long you're going to meditate for me is important, because I'm committing to that practice. Otherwise, I think it's too easy for me to just fuck it off. Sometimes I'll be like, well, I'm going to do 20 minutes, but then it gets to 10 and I go, man, this isn't working. I'll just leave. I'll just forget it. So I think for me, sitting, I also really enjoy, I bought some like noise cancelling headphones not that long ago, and I really enjoy putting those in and having the meditation on kind of low, so it's drowning out a lot of the noise and you can still just hear, the person talking. But yeah, similar sort of practice to you in a way, other than I use guided stuff, and I really enjoy gratitude meditation. I think that's a really good way of staying grounded for me. And again, especially with the pace that life's moved for the last 18 months to 2 years, it's important for me, I think, to stay grounded and to keep thinking about that stuff more than normal, to keep your feet on the ground and keep moving forward as best as possible. But yeah, I think this is why initially I was asking you about the morning and whether you keep swapping things out, and that's just because I've got to the point where my morning routine is pretty dialed. I really do enjoy it. It's nice having some routine in my life for the first time in years as well. But then I'm thinking, like, I really want to start the journaling practice, but do I need to take something out of my morning routine? And would that be either the reading or the meditation? And I think that's why I was asking you initially if you still journaled and when you found time. But you did allude to the fact that you take 2 hours out in the morning, which is amazing. I think I take around the same time out in the morning, but an hour of it for me is out walking first thing. I like to wake up, go straight outdoors and just walk the dog for about an hour. Usually try and do some of it barefoot. Usually just be present, don't take a phone, don't do anything like that. But to me, that's meditation too. I know a friend of mine, Jace, over at Gypsy Tales, who we both know, mentioned that years ago, how riding, walking, whatever can be a form of meditation. And I'd never really thought about it like that, but it sort of can be. And I think walking with the dog for me is a form of meditation in the morning. It's a case of taking stock and letting some thoughts pass that maybe shouldn't be in there, and then setting some goals for the day, and then I try and sort of jot them down a little bit when I get back from my dog walk. Anyway, I'm waffling, but what I'm trying to say is I need to get better at meditating daily, because when I do it, I feel so much better. But it's one of those things that it's really difficult to quantify the results, because it's not a physical thing. Like you can't say, oh yeah, I meditated for 5 hours last week. Look at the size of my arms, or look at this trick I learned. There's nothing to quantify it. And I think that sometimes makes it easier for me just to be like, nah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll just do double the meditation. And obviously tomorrow never comes. So but it is important, man. And I think this book reiterated to me that I need to meditate more. Hence why I do use that app. I don't use the Sam Harris one anymore. I use the Balance app, which is amazing for anyone who hasn't used it. For sure, check out Balance. So yeah, it's interesting though to hear. So you've got a daily practice, or no, it's not so much daily?
Yeah, it's daily for the most part. And also, first of all, I'm really excited to hear that podcast that you got coming up with the founder of that app, Balance. It's
Yeah.
gonna be really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's daily for sure, man. And some days I'll forget to do it. Some days I got to wake up early to shoot, or for whatever instance. I mean, sunrise now is almost at 4:30, so you're not waking up at 2 in the morning to get this stuff done. That's for damn sure. So sometimes I won't get through it, but I always find that it's if I keep a good daily routine, it kind of builds me up and gives me about a 2-week buffer to kind of slide things off and be a little freestyle. And then I have about 2 weeks to get back on to things, or else things will start slipping. And meditation is simply one tool that I use to just, check in when things get overwhelming. And I think that's when you're talking about that quantifiable result of meditation. I think for me, it's basically how solid I'm feeling. I would, put it to like a ninja, where like things are coming into my life and I'm freaking like, ninjing them and making them work, and then sending them out the other way. And then when I feel overwhelmed and like there's too much onslaught of enemies, that I can't fight off.
Yeah.
Then it's then I got to check in with meditation and get centered again, and then that allows me to, keep being a ninja, if that makes any sense. It's kind of a funny analogy.
The way I think about it is, it's a great analogy. The way I think about my own brain, 90% of the time, it's like it's almost like a weighing scale. So when I'm centered, when I'm sticking to my daily practices, when I'm super kind to other people, when I'm literally just doing all the things that I think makes me, I'm centered. But then as soon as I start sliding off, that's when I know I need to bring it back, either with meditation, I really enjoy like sound meditations, like sound baths. The bowls, I can't remember the actual name of those bowls that ding. I really like that. Or just a day in nature. Like I know that I need to bring it back. I think my brain starts going a little bit into override, and I need to bring it back. And I think a lot of people listening to this will probably hear that and think, I do that. Like constantly thinking, like it's like an anxiety. It's like your brain is on. It doesn't turn off, and that's when I know that I've fallen out of line a little bit, and I just need to bring it back with a day or 2 or even 3 sometimes of just trying to disconnect from everything early, try and get good sleep, try and breathe, ultimately do some breath. And my go-to a lot of the time is the cold. It's like, right, I need to be cold. I need to turn my brain off. I need to just sit and listen to my breath. And that's how I think of my brain. It's just this like pendulum / weighing scale sort of thing where I need to try and keep it in the center all the time. And when it starts going off, it's not good. If it gets into the red, shit gets crazy. It's not a nice place to be. But I think I've managed to, through podcasts and reading, being able to learn some of these tools that help me keep in check almost. And it's interesting to think, if you weren't open to some of these ideas, what headspace you'd be in. That is something I often think about. If I hadn't been exposed to some of these books, if I hadn't even been exposed to, you know, stuff like Stoicism to read in the morning, or the War of Art. Like, what fucking headspace could you be in? It's crazy to think that. Don't you think?
It's so cool, and I'm so stoked that we're just here talking about it because it's important. And I think for me, you know, it was just something that meditation just kept coming up in a lot of people that I admired. And then I was like, oh shit, well, all these people, these badass motherfuckers that I see out there are doing this. So, like, if I want to be badass, I just got to do it. And so I just started doing it and didn't really notice too much stuff. But over time, you know, I do notice much more control of my mind. Like, I'll identify negative thought loops. I can overwrite them and replace them with new ones. And it's just making me a better person, and I'm more able to handle stress and all that stuff. And that's something that you maybe can't quantify in the beginning, but it's something that if you keep it up, you definitely you know, you definitely build on it. And I think this book actually builds a strong case to why that is. He spends a lot of time talking about the mind and how it's a muscle, and that if you keep working on it, there's different levels of control that you can have. And he talks about these states that you can get into, that if you're enlightened or at a certain level of enlightenment, you can just access at any time. And I certainly feel that way with certain headspaces. You know, I can just almost at a snap my fingers just enter certain headspaces, and that really helps you navigate through life, as life just continually throws challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge at you. But I think one thing I'll just say before we close off meditation is I forgot to add that also, like, at the end of my meditation practice, this has been really powerful for me. But I just like enter with this mantra, and it's basically like I basically just tell myself that every day in every way I expand in abundance, success, and love as I inspire others around me to do the same. And that has been really powerful to me.
Wow, that's your like mantra, yeah?
Yeah, embody that just in my character traits, in my life, and trying to instill that in me as much as possible, so I can continue to expand in love and abundance and success, and inspire everyone around me and anyone I touch to do the same. And it's been powerful.
That's beautiful. Did you arrive at that mantra through journaling?
No, books, dude. Books.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting to have a mantra, isn't it? That's something that a lot of people talk about, having that one thing, that one little phrase that you live your life by. I've always had two that, you know, if you're asked to say something like that, you know, what's your mantra? I've always had like, jump, you might fall, you might fly, or follow your bliss. I love the term follow your bliss. It's something that I always revert back to whenever I'm struggling. I'm just like, follow your bliss, just keep following whatever you think that is, just keep following that train. Do you have a meditation that you remember that was more powerful than any other meditation you've done? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, I have one experience. So I was shooting a movie for the Claw. I think it was called Reverence, and I was going to do a double backflip open loop, and it had never been done before. And I knew it was possible. And I have literally just come back from the Loop of Doom accident. So it was a bunch of stuff going on in my brain. And I needed to pull this trick off just to prove to myself that I'd fully recovered and that I could do things that, you know, it was just the final stamp on my recovery, basically, the final test for me. And I can remember going into it, I was super, there was a lot of things happening. The weather was bad. I didn't get much practice. I was tired. All these things were just coming up. This resistance, we'll just call it. And it was right before the shoot, and the weather wasn't looking good for the day, but then we got a break. So unexpectedly, I had an opportunity, like a couple hour window to try and land this trick. And I remember just feeling really overwhelmed and whatever. So I just literally, I sat in I went up to my room, put my pads on, and I just did some Wim Hof breathing and sat down and just meditated. And that was one of the most powerful meditation experiences for me, just being okay with, not landing it or not trying it, and just like getting rid of all that pressure that I had just put on myself for no reason. And I came out of that, just fully reborn with no pressure on my shoulders, and I was able to perform at my highest level and land the trick. But, maybe without doing that, I probably would have buckled or cracked, So that was probably one of the most powerful meditation experiences for me. And it just took the power of meditating and stuff, because I didn't do anything different. It's not like I took a nap and slept. It's not like I did a workout. All I did was just take like 10 minutes to just do some self-talk and be like, yo, chill the fuck out. And that was the difference.
Just got your brain back in check.
True. And that was the difference. So to me, it was just like, wow, meditation is a really powerful tool. I'm not sure how to use it yet, but I just used it in a really cool way. And I think it would be intelligent for me to continue to kind of poke around meditation and visualization and see, what other benefits I can implement into my life, because this was a really cool experience. And it worked out. And I've heard other athletes talk about it too, like Jed Milden, for instance, has a very similar experience before he does any of his moves, his quad flip and stuff. He went into meditation and fully accepted, him not doing it and walking away from the shoot, everyone being bummed and blah, blah, blah. And something happens to people when they accept it. And, he was able to land it, as we know, he did it first, whatever. But so that was my craziest experience. What about you? Have you had any?
Yeah, that is a crazy one. I wish I had something as cool as that, dude. There was no world first tricks or anything like that going on with my crazy experience. But the one that I always remember was only about a year ago. It was probably around this time. And we were in this weird lockdown thing. So I was finding a lot more time to meditate and stuff. And I remember, similar to you, whenever I want to do a meditation, I'll do at least 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing first. So I sat in the garden. My girlfriend was sat behind me. She was working on a laptop. I could hear her clicking away. It was a bit off-putting. She was sat behind me in the garden. And I sat like normal. I put my little mat thing out. I sat in the garden. I crossed my legs. And I just did 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing. I always use the app for Wim Hof breathing. Don't know why. I always use the app.
I use it too. I love it.
Use the app. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? So I used the app, did Wim Hof breathing, and I remember feeling really chill and really good. And I was like, okay, I'm going to drop straight into a meditation. And this is one of the first times I haven't used an app. So I didn't do anything. I just sat there with this, that tingly feeling you get after you've done 3 rounds of Wim Hof, where everything's tingling and you feel I feel like I either get really charged or I'm really relaxed. And there was just silence in my brain. It was just nothing. And I just sat there. It's a beautiful feeling. It's one that it's arguably one of my favorite feelings, actually. It's really nice. And I just sat there, and then I woke up, and I looked around, and I was like, huh? And Emma was like, my girlfriend goes, you all right? And I was like, yeah. How long have I been here? She was like 35 minutes. And I don't remember anything other than just being totally at peace, just nothing. And that's the crazy, and I've never got back to that ever, but that felt like all the pressure, all the stress was gone. And I just sat there and I must have just focused on breathing, and that was it. And it's kind of lame compared to yours. I wish I'd gone first. Fuck's sake.
No, dude. Let's get into it more. Let's get into this more, because because Wim Hof breathing is a really powerful. It's really powerful, and basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to reset. Reset some of your hormones. Release a lot of buildup that's inside of the body with things that we don't fully understand about that basically, well, some people fully understand, but me and you don't fully understand about the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system and all that stuff. And basically that exercise allows you to basically kind of reset things, which is really freaking powerful, and release some things, right? That aren't necessarily serving you or building up inside of you. And I mean, we can go down so many different rabbit holes, but I think for anyone living this high stress modern life, it's really important. Wim Hof breathing is a really good tool to use to kind of reset your stress, because stress is kind of like a container in the body where you can only take so much, and then the container fills up. And the Wim Hof breathing allows you to let that out, at least some of it, not all of it, because stress can be in the body for it can be in the body for a long time, and sometimes you need to stretch.
And people say that is what causes chronic inflammation, sickness, disease, etc. All come from this stress that you carry around with you.
And we listen to podcasts, and they talk about this all the time, but it's really powerful exercise to kind of reset that. And I think when you sit in meditation afterwards, it just kind of lets you, be in that state. And it's cool to hear that you fall asleep and you don't remember anything, or maybe you weren't even asleep. Maybe you were just like,
I weren't asleep. I was still sat upright. Yeah, I was just sat perfectly upright, straight back, beautiful pose, like the Buddha, just sat there chilling.
Well, dude,
I was like, what?
We got to be careful. You got to be careful talking about that, because you might get some followers, man, and you might be enlightened, bro.
I reached enlightenment, I think. Let's put it out there. It's crazy. Really nice experience, but there's that feeling, if no one's ever done it before, definitely give. I feel like for me it's minimum of 3 rounds, but that feeling after is just, you can't even explain it. And sometimes you get it way heavier. You get that real sense of, I don't even have a word for it. It's almost like nothingness. It's just a total de-stress and a total silence that rings in your head.
It's a nervous system restart, essentially. What is happening, it's so powerful. It's so powerful, man. And especially I'll even take this to mountain bikers. It's really powerful for mountain bikers in general, because, well, you go on a ride, you don't necessarily feel it, but you're kicking in stress. You're almost dying. Maybe you took a crash. Maybe you did a huge pedal and your body's not used to pedaling like that, and it was pretty abusive on your system, and it was a big ask. Well, if you now, the next day or even after, sit and do some breathing exercise and reset yourself, you basically allowing your body to decompress from the experience, which is something that is really freaking powerful and not a lot of people do. And of course, if we want to relate it to anything, well, say you do go out mountain biking, you take a crash and you don't fully decompress from that, your body actually remembers it and stores it inside of your fascia, which is, like a Spider-Man suit, like a onesie that you're covered in, that stores energy and information. And Wim Hof breathing can actually help you release, a lot of that stuff that's inside of there, because blood gets oxygenated and flows all over the place, blah, 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 blah. There's lots of stuff online about it, but essentially what I'm saying is it's a really powerful practice, because these little things that we go through in our daily life, maybe it's like getting a text from a really, someone that you don't like, or someone from work that's stressing you out. Well, now your body takes that stress, internalizes it, and you don't really realize it, but maybe when you go into sleep, your heart rate may be elevated and your parasympathetic nervous system won't kick in as fast as it should, and you might, sit down in bed for 8 hours, but really only get 4 really restful sleep hours. And what that'll do is slowly chip away at your how conscious you are, basically, and how diligent your focus is, and how how much you can take stress before you crack, and basically just chips away at you and chips away at you and chips away at you until your fuse is really short, basically. And a great way to basically guard against that is the Wim Hof breathing and the meditation, because it continually allows you to reset, release this, and have a larger container for stress and keep being a ninja. And I know that was a little bit of a digression, but I think I brought it full circle there.
It's
so hopefully you at home know what I'm talking about.
It certainly feels like that, though, when you're in a regular pattern of doing the breath, doing the cold, doing the meditation, how things do just wash off you like water off a duck's back. When you're at that out driving and someone cuts you up and you're just like, whatever. Or like you say, you get that text and you're just like, whatever. You can become so much more present and not constantly thinking about the future. I think Sam Harris said something really nice in this book, which was something along the lines of, like, the reality of your life is always now. Like, you're not living in the future, and you be happy with the present. Don't live in the past. Just live right here, right now. And that bit of text must have really stood out to me, because I've somehow managed to remember it, which is really rare for me. So, there you go. Meditation. Do it.
It's powerful. And, if we want to bring this back full circle to character traits, right? Well, a lot of really great athletes actually, part of what makes them great is their ability to be fully present in the moment. We'll use Michael Jordan as an example. Extremely present human being, which allowed him to cultivate charisma and, pay attention to his surroundings and get immersed in the game and be one of the greatest, basketball players of all time. And mindfulness is a huge cornerstone of performance that ties into character traits, which ties into being fully present, because some character traits that you want to instill in yourself require that you're fully present. So it's all like a big circle, man, and it was pretty cool.
Totally.
Like, for the most part, like Sam Harris he kept touching on things that I was like, oh, damn, that's sick, and then just going way too deep into it, where he would just lose me.
Okay. Yeah. Nah, I feel you 100%. And that's just what super smart people do, I'm afraid. They do that. I don't know. You touched on something a while back now, but about and this could be a whole other conversation, a whole other podcast, but about psychedelics and throwing those in the mix, like right at the end. You're obviously a very aware, present, mindful, stoic person. Do you screw with any of these things, like psychedelics? Have you had experience with them in the past? Should we save this for another episode? I don't know. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, that's a big one, man.
It is.
Psychedelics, there's different levels, isn't there? Like we learned in this book, he's talking about, I assume, it seems to me that the mushrooms and acid and MDMA, they're kind of all on one level. And then there's this other level with DMT and ayahuasca and all those other things that seem to be, just on a whole other spectrum, And I can say that I've never experienced DMT or ayahuasca or anything, but I've listened to a lot of podcasts about it, and it seems to me that it's more of like a medicinal thing. and that it's maybe not a drug.
I'd agree.
It's more of a medicine. And that's exciting to me, and I hope to one day experiment with that stuff. You know, when I have the time and when it feels right, I'm super interested in using that stuff medicinally, especially if it can help me get to the next level. And that's all what I'm driven by, is like evolution, right? Evolving myself. So like that stuff is exciting to me, especially as people learn more about it. And if we take it down to a lower level, so we want to talk about, I guess, LSD, psilocybin, and know, MDMA and stuff. Like I've heard, rumors of a lot of athletes microdosing mushrooms. And I actually know athletes right now who are experimenting with microdosing certain mushroom compounds that actually will help you increase your performance. And this is insane to me to hear. And I've definitely experimented with some of this stuff, and I could see that working out. I could see the possibilities.
Yeah.
But I've never done a formal experiment and microdose mushrooms and went out and rode and see how that goes. Because that's scary to me. That's a great way to get hurt, it sounds like.
It is.
But then I hear stories of, certain action sport athletes who will never go into an event unless they're microdosed. And they go and win everything.
Really? That's crazy.
And you're like, holy shit, that's insane, man. So there definitely is a subculture in action sports that are using psychedelics as performance enhancers. That is really freaking crazy. It sounds crazy. It's taboo. It's not really talked about a lot. And it's interesting because it's happening. So I wonder how that's going to kind of unravel and evolve. And it's interesting to me as a performance enthusiast and someone who's trying to be the best that they can possibly be. It's interesting that stuff like that kind of comes into the picture, right? And I don't know where I stand on it because is it a performance enhancer? Is it like taking steroids, for instance? Is it but steroids for the mind, basically. And action sports are so mental that maybe it is, steroids for your brain that allows you to perform on a higher level. I don't really know, but I really am interested in it, and I'm hoping to learn more about it in the next 5 years for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I think it's interesting to see what the future will look like with that. Whether imagine athletes having mind blank of the word. Psilocybin mushroom sponsors on the helmets and stuff like that. Imagine that.
No, that would never fly. It could be, and that's something because you cannot like action sport athlete is a superhero, right? Are you going to sit beside a 15-year-old kid with magic mushrooms on your helmet and be like, yo, kid, I take this shit before every run, and that's how I do all these moves? What kind of message?
They do it with energy drinks.
Yeah, well, what kind of message are you sending, right? The kid is not he's not going to be grown up enough to understand that. And these substances are so dangerous that, have you experienced with psilocybin? It's insane. I've seen psilocybin turn grown men into basically children, man.
Dude, I had one gnarly experience with them, with mushrooms, the gnarliest experience. One that will stick with me forever, actually. And I've not really done much of it since because I sort of don't really trust my own mental health in a weird kind of way. I've been in some dark places in the last, over the last, let's say 5 or 6, 10 years. And I know that there's certain elements of my brain that I don't really want to unlock at times. So I've really been sort of cautious with psychedelics, but let me tell you this, dude. So I was on a stag do, a friend's stag do, and we were on like a canal boat. You've seen a canal boat, right? Like a barge. So they're like super narrow and long, and all the beds are like really narrow as well. So you sort of get in bed, and you're sort of in like this with your shoulders right at your elbows in your side and stuff. And so I did some mushrooms. Probably took quite a heavy dose, to be honest. Probably was a little bit over the top with them, and things started getting a little crazy in my. I had a few visualizations. We were going along the water, and the water started going a different color and stuff like that. And like an amateur, I just bitched out. I was like, right, I'm going to bed. So I went and got in bed, and a few like crazy things happened, man. And I'm going to try and explain it the best I can, but it is kind of difficult. So I'm in this really narrow bed, and I've got my elbows in my side, and you can barely move. And for a start, that felt kind of strange. And then above me in this bed was a speaker, and the speaker was playing really eerie classical music, and I was tripping balls, and I was really scared. But basically, I went through this whole visualization of dying. Like, I actually feel like I died in this canal boat, right? So the bed felt like a hospital bed, and I was tripping, and all of my friends kept coming to see me, and I was basically visualizing that I was in hospital, and that all my friends were coming to see me to check I was basically still alive, and then they'd leave, and I'd be like, see ya. And it was really scary. It was horrible, but at the same time kind of enlightening, because I've always had this weird feeling about death, that I think before that I was kind of sort of scared of it. Yeah, I was kind of scared of death. And then after that experience, the feeling of sort of nothingness, and that just going into the abyss, was really, really peaceful and really nice. And the only way I can describe it is when I actually did nearly die in the water, in the cold water in Loch Ness. It felt exactly the same as that. As when you think you're about to die, it's actually beautifully peaceful. And it was just so nice to just lay there and just be like, just give in to whatever it is that's happening to you. And that was basically my mushroom trip. And then 3 or 4 years later, it manifested into this actual near death experience. And all the time I was like thinking back to that mushroom trip and going, oh, this is what it is. This is cool. Like, just hang out. All your friends are going to come and visit you in your head, and you're just like, yeah, see you later. I'm going to drown in 5 minutes. All good. Sort of made like light of it in my own head. And ever since then, I've been sort of, I wouldn't say I'm not scared of dying, but I know that the actual process is really nothing to be scared of. It's actually kind of relaxing, and I know there's a better word for it that I'm really struggling to find, but it's just a whole the whole pressure and everything just alleviates out of your body, and you just sit there, and it's just nice, and off you go down the river or whatever it is that you go down. I don't know, man. But yeah, that was my mushroom trip. Sorry, just to sort of come back full circle. But it was an eye-opener for sure. I was a different person the day after that, dude. I was like, fuck, like I feel like I died last night and I'm like reborn today. It was crazy. I feel like in a different setting that would have been probably a really nicer experience than just being laid on a canal boat with all your friends coming in to take the piss out of me, going, look at the state of you. But at the same time, it did feel like they were coming to visit me as I was passing away. So yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
And then, ever since that, I've been sort of scared of it. Like I say, I am sort of, and the same with smoking weed. I did a little bit of that when I was a kid, but now I kind of like having my shit together. When you talk about, I spoke earlier about that balance being off in your brain. I'm really scared of it going too far off and not being able to bring it back. So that's why I sort of don't mess with anything anymore. I like being straight. Like, I like knowing what I'm doing. I don't like losing my inhibitions anymore, even with drinking. Like, I don't drink like that anymore. I'll sometimes have like one beer, but I never go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's nice to have that security and certainly
Yeah.
these compounds we're talking about can explode that false sense of security that we kind of have inside of ourselves and make us feel really fragile. And it's crazy, man. I think that it's definitely medicine. Like, I'll put like weed even in there, psilocybin. I don't know necessarily acid or MDMA so much.
I think it's all set and setting as well. Like if you're doing it in the right places with the right people, a lot of these sort of thinkers, again, like Sam Harris, do talk about hero doses of things. And if you're gonna smoke weed, like smoke weed in nature with a few friends and make it a nice experience. The same with doing any psychedelic. To me, it's all setting. I would never use anything like that as like a party drug. It wouldn't be like, let's do some mushrooms and go to a club. It would be like, let's do some mushrooms and go into the woods and be where you're supposed to be when you do these things. And I'm the same with DMT, and also with maybe doing ayahuasca at some point. I've heard so much about it through various channels, podcasts, books. It's definitely on the radar, and I feel like, again, that could be a calling at some point, whether that comes from God or from someone else, that I do want to do it at some point. But again, at the moment I'm a little bit nervous about tapping into something that could, because you do hear a few horror stories, right? Like certain people do some LSD and they're never the same again. And I think it's careful consideration before you go down some of those heavier psychedelic routes, and making sure that you are in the right space, making sure it is called to you properly, and you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, I would say that it's medicine, and just, if you're considering it, like, do it as safely as possible. Do your research. I mean, like, here I am, 30 years old, full grown, male adult, still learning, still evolving. And I think a life without drugs is probably, because this is what these compounds are. They're drugs. Drugs or medicine, whatever you want to call it. But I think a life without those is dull. It's missing certain key elements and experiences that add a lot of color and flavor to one's life and life experience. So
yeah.
I wouldn't say like, hell no, kids, don't do drugs. I would say more like, do drugs, but be very, careful and meticulous into what you're doing, because they're not really drugs. They're more like medicines,
Yeah.
I
think it's recategorizing it too.
Yeah. Use
like
it
cocaine
like
to me is a drug. Like, that's a party drug. Mushrooms to me, I'd never call that a drug. I'd just be like, I don't really know what I'd classify it as. If it was just having a general conversation, I don't know if I'd call it medicine, but I wouldn't be like, oh, it's a drug. That's just my own personal opinion, but I think, certain things are drugs and should be left well alone. Whereas things like maybe weed or maybe marijuana, weed, mushrooms, DMT to some extent, although it's been synthesized now, ultimately that is the chemical that your brain makes when you're going to have a psychedelic experience. So again, research, and I'm not the person to be taking advice off about doing this stuff. So
yeah, dude, and there's big lines. Like, you want to talk about cocaine, for instance. Like, I've seen cocaine destroy people's lives. I've also seen weed, bury people.
Yeah.
Psilocybin, whatever, LSD, those are whole new categories that I'm not really too versed in, but, I've seen it destroy people's lives, and I definitely wouldn't recommend it, using it recreationally. But if medicinally, from my own experiences, I can say that there is some really positive benefits from weed and psilocybin. But that's a whole nother category, and we're so stoked that we got people like Sam Harris like out there experimenting with this stuff so they could figure it out, and to bring it, bring a guideline at least into
Yeah.
mainstream culture so people could use these substances in a safe way that benefits their lives.
Yeah, totally, dude. Well, we're nearly at 3 hours, so maybe we should aim towards wrapping this bitch up.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like I could sit and chat like this forever, but I guess I got to pass it over to you. Is there a book you want to recommend for the listeners to read?
Yeah, dude. And if you made it this far, congratulations. Insane, actually, that we've been talking this long, but whatever. That's what a couple coffees will do, dude.
It's been months.
I mean, like, okay, I've been thinking a lot about books, and I got 2 books, and I kind of want to propose them, and I'll leave them up to you. You know, I was thinking either we could do The Rise of Superman, which is a great book that really focuses on the flow state and action sports and leaves us a lot to talk about, or we could go Think Again by Tim Grant, I think.
Okay.
And those were
Have you read both of them already?
Huh?
You've read them both already anyway, yeah?
I read them both already multiple times. Really big fan. The Rise of Superman was a book that I wish I could have read when I was like 19 years old. Same with Tim Grant's book, Think Again. You know, it really just Think Again is more about rethinking your beliefs, rethinking, you know, all these things that you pick up and you're operating on your day to day, you know, just making sure that you look at those again and, you know, get your blind spots out and continually challenge your own belief systems and make sure you discover your limiting ones. And then The Rise of Superman is more of a book that dives into action sports, the flow state, and peak performance.
Okay. So if I was to choose, I'd go The Rise of Superman.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. I'll grab a copy and let's catch up when we're called to catch up again.
Dude, and there's a great
Hopefully
book.
In a month.
There's a sequel to it too. So maybe
really?
We'll do the sequel next.
Let's do them both. Let's do The Rise of Superman, then let's catch up, and then we'll do the sequel.
It's exciting.
How's that? All right, let's do that. Let's do that. Because these things, although we just use them as a framework to chat, I think it works really well. You know, it's a really cool little concept, this one. Getting booked. And I think we've covered a lot today, man, to be honest. And apologies for not knowing much about religion to people out there if you've made it this far. Apologies for not really being able to articulate most of the stuff we've talked about this far, but that's what Matt's here for. So thank you, Matt, for being so open, honest, and good with words. You're an absolute hero and a G.
Well, dude, mad respect to you, and thanks for that last recommendation. It was exciting. It was a tough one to read, but it really challenged a lot of my thinking, you know. So it was cool to read. It was expansive. It was some big words, but it was cool to kind of dip into consciousness and relate that to action sports and the sport that I love, mountain biking, and to be here and talk to you about it. So hell yeah, man. Thanks.
Fun times, dog. All right. Yeah. If you don't already, you know where to find Matt. And you better subscribe to that podcast of his too, because it's doing fucking good these days. So get subscribed. And thanks everyone for listening out there. It's always appreciated. Thank you for your ears. And hopefully you've learned something. And if you haven't, it is what it is. So peace out.
Yeah.
All right. Let me end that. Dude,